Chronicles of the Stellar Mecha War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551. Who is she? Wang Fengfeng didn't stay long before returning to his workstation. Lin Fan sat in the tea room alone for a long time. Waiting. It seemed. She really had no choice but to wait. She scratched her head with both hands in annoyance, and a lot of her hair, which was originally casually fixed, was pulled down. She blew a big breath and blew the messy hair covering her face to the side. So now she can only bet on Crow's kindness? Forget it. She'd better not think about it. The crow brain is not suitable for expansion. Lin Fan sighed helplessly, drank the remaining half bottle of happy water in one breath, and threw the empty bottle into the trash can. Let's go. She should go back to sleep. When she falls asleep, she doesn't have to think about anything. P Country. After a short rest, Antonio took the initiative to find Ovi to watch the video. He watched the whole process of Xingqian's appearance in Sigio City in silence, drinking one glass of wine after another. After the video ended, 2 bottles of wine were empty on the coffee table. Antonio thought about it and asked Ovi for Xingqian's latest communication video in Hua province. Isn't it amazing? Ovi also poured himself a small glass of wine, sat on the sofa, and admired Xingqian's heroic appearance together. Antonio narrowed his eyes and smiled, and touched his back teeth with the tip of his tongue. It's hard for a mecha like ours not to be amazing, right? He said it lightly, but Ovi saw pride on his face. I thought you were the only one with a mecha like Apollo, but I didn't expect that. Ovi knew he was telling the truth, so he didn't respond with a smile, but sighed instead. Antonio raised his eyes and glanced at him lightly and took another sip of wine into his mouth. Seeing that he didn't fall for it, Ovi could only continue to speak. It's just a pity for Poseidon. It's likely that he was lost at the hands of Xingqian. Ovi felt sorry in his heart, but he also felt a little relieved. Horst was a man with little ability, but a bad temper. His mecha was not as powerful as Apollo, and it was much worse than Apollo in both appearance and actual ability. But no matter what, it's also a mecha, right? It's not as good as the best, but better than the worst. It must be enough to crush Lang Xing's ordinary firepower. If Ovi had seen the initial appearance of Xingqian, he would have known that Poseidon, who had always troubled him, was not in a fully evolved state. In other words, if conditions allowed, the green turtle could get in touch with his key evolutionary material, and would also be upgraded to a complete body with wings like Apollo. But they were a little unlucky after all. Unlike Country H, which found the key to the evolution of Mecha 818, and found the evolution method of Xingqian by chance. At this moment, Party P still thought that the difference between mechas was just like the difference between individuals, which was innate. As for Horst, he always felt that he was treated unfairly because of the difference in rank with Antonio, and always liked to compete with Antonio. Not only that, he always deliberately found faults and bullied the weak. Many people in the Starfish building had complained, but Ovi thought that Horst was still valuable, so he covered his ass for him. Now that Xingqian has appeared, Poseidon, a bad-tempered and difficult-to-serve defective product, naturally cannot be seen by Ovi. He looked at the gleaming white mecha and felt that the scene of her wings spread out and flying against the light looked exactly like the angel on the church mural. He was just trying to win over Xingqian to the P Country camp, so he naturally couldn't find bad luck with her because of Poseidon. Ovi squinted his eyes, imagining the scene of Xingqian surrendering to P Country, joining forces with Antonio to shock the world, and felt that the throne of the world hegemony was stable again. But then again, no matter how bad Poseidon is, he is still a helper, and he still has to find a way to get some benefits from the H side. Returning to reality from the beautiful intentions, Ovi found that there was no sound in the room. The video was fixed on the scene of Xingqian rising into the sky, and Apollo leaning on his sword and looking into the distance. Antonio said nothing, his arms resting on his knees, the cup in his hand shaking gently, staring straight at the screen, not knowing what he was thinking. What's wrong? Are you moved? Ovi joked. Antonio shook his head. It's just a familiar feeling. Familiar? Ovi stood up. You mean you think Xing is familiar? Antonio must have felt familiar with more than just one or two encounters. Is she an acquaintance? Play it again, the part where she speaks. Antonio had an inexplicable sense of familiarity when he heard Xing speak before. The situation was special at the time, and he was afraid of fighting with the other party, so he didn't have time to think about it. Now in a quiet environment, hearing her voice again, this familiarity is even stronger. Ovi quickly sat up straight, picked up the remote control, and turned it to the position where Xing handed the sword to Apollo. Are you looking for this? Are you looking for this? This part was played repeatedly, until Antonio raised his hand and stopped. How is it? Who did you think of? Ovi asked with concern. Antonio frowned and shook his head slowly. It's too short. It's hard to be sure. Didn't she talk to you before? Familiarity is just a feeling. Without evidence, it's really hard to say. Yes, just 2 sentences. This Xing doesn't like to talk. While Ovi replied, he quickly returned to the computer and called up the tick-cold responses. After his chatterbox-like nagging, Xing's reply can really be regarded as extremely concise. If it weren't for the Mecha buff, how could Ovi tolerate others treating him like this? Xing's conversation with Ovi was through the communicator, and the voice did not seem to be directly through the Mecha, so Antonio heard the voice, which was more familiar. Antonio vaguely had a candidate in his mind, but he also knew Ovi's attitude towards Lin Fan. As a good friend of Lin Fan, he couldn't cause her extra trouble before things were confirmed. If Lin Fan was Xing, it might be okay. She would have enough strength to make Ovi pay attention and give in. If not, Antonio glanced at Ovi's piercing eyes and decided to keep it to himself for now. What's wrong? Ovi saw Antonio's glance and keenly felt that something was wrong. Nothing. Antonio lowered his eyes, avoiding his questioning, but he also wanted to find out if things were what he thought, so he asked, I remember there is a technology that can restore voice changes, right? Yes. Ovi quickly reacted. You want to restore the sentence she said to you? Antonio nodded. Her real voice is too short. It's hard for me to judge. Okay, I'll let the technical department analyze it now. Ovi thought it made sense and quickly gave the order. Compared with Antonio, he seemed to be more anxious to know who is the inner person of Xing. If they can know it earlier, they can seize the opportunity earlier and contact Xing earlier. Haha, who can predict the future? People always go to higher places. The operation of the technical department is not that difficult. After comparing Apollo's voice with Antonio's real voice analysis, they adjusted the voice change frequency. Then, based on the speculation that the Mecha is of the same origin, the voice of Xing's voice with the change of tone was converted. After Antonio listened to it, the feeling became more and more obvious. Could it be Lin Fan? He and Lin Fan had spent quite a lot of time together in Country H, so it was normal for him to feel familiar with Lin Fan's tone and voice. That's right, there were so many women in Country H, and only Lin Fan had a relatively deep relationship with him. But to be sure, he couldn't. After all, these 3 sentences were ridiculously short. People are similar, and their voices are the same. His words would really cause big trouble for Lin Fan. How is it? Ovi saw Antonio lost in thought, and felt that something was going on. Antonio had already made plans to cover it up, but at this moment, the phone rang. He took it out, and took a look. The sharp-eyed Ovi saw the name on the screen. Lin Fan? This guy's actually a good person. But Lin Fan created it himself. Chapter 550 to testing each other. Antonio was not the only one who felt familiar with the voice. Lin Fan, who had just woken up from a dream, also felt that Apollo was very familiar. She didn't know how, in such a messy and uncomfortable environment, she actually had a crazy dream. Antonio, who had not seen him for a long time, appeared in her dream. The two of them held hands and jumped like 2 fools in the colorful and flowery garden. Like Teletubbies, the 2 of them wandered around for a while, and the scene turned into a restaurant again. Lin Fan didn't remember what they ate. Anyway, they both buried their heads in eating and stuffed food into their mouths. After a while, Lin Fan took him to a nightclub again, patted Antonio's shoulder, who was like a silly boy, and smiled like a brothel owner, and told him that she would take him to see. God pity, although Lin Fan always had the desire to peek, She had never really entered that kind of place. Is it true that you think about something during the day and dream about it at night? But to be honest, she hasn't thought of this idea for a long time. Besides, even if she really wanted to, she should have gone to John Woo, Wang Fengfeng, Song Ren, etc., right? What's the point of going to a foreigner? Antonio is a good friend, but he's not close enough to go to a nightclub together. Lin Fan, who was looking at him from a god's perspective, felt something was wrong. She couldn't believe that she could do something like a pimp. The next second, she heard Antonio shyly say, "Thank you." This sentence woke her up with a loud bang like a bell, and then she kept hearing various thank you. In her dream, there were Antonios and Apollos, mixed together, crushing the dream. Lin Fan opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling calmly. Antonio was very polite. Maybe it was the habit of foreigners to always say thank you politely. Thank you was the sentence he said the most, and it was also the sentence Lin Fan heard most frequently. To be fair, Antonio and Apollo's voices were not the same, but Lin Fan also knew that the voice would change through the mecha. If her memory is correct, apart from the different voices, the pitch, tone, and rhythm of the two are really similar. Lin Fan sighed and sat up. Is she too suspicious? As the countryman that she is most familiar with, after meeting Apollo face to face today, it doesn't seem to be a particularly strange thing to think of Antonio. Lin Fan turned over and got out of bed, walking around the bed. Speaking of which, Antonio went as Yu Gang before. Although it has been a while, according to his character, he should have been gone a long time ago, but his last circle of friends is indeed in Zhu Gang, and it has been a long time since he contacted. Lin Fan looked at Antonio's message with some annoyance, turning around and around, thinking about it, and decided to contact him. It would be fine if he didn't think about it when he was busy before, but now that he remembered it, at least he should care about it, right? Lin Fan persuaded himself and called Antonio. The communication number that Lin Fan is using now was applied for after going to 800. The people she added are all people she met at work in the past 2 years, and the other close relatives are her parents, aunt and so on. As a young woman who is about to turn 40, she didn't think about changing her nickname or making a pretty profile picture. She just put her real name on it. Whoever added her didn't have to change her nickname. On the contrary, her other friends, especially the young ones, changed their nicknames and profile pictures every now and then. If she forgot to make notes, she would not know who was who in a blink of an eye. She had encountered this twice before. She relied on the method of elimination to get through the difficulty once, and the other time she had no choice but to ask others quietly. Since then, she has marked all the real names in her address book and never encountered the embarrassing situation of not knowing who was speaking. So, on Antonio's phone, the name displayed on Lin Fan's number was Lin Fan. Ovi really cared about Lin Fan for a while. He had a deeper understanding of Chinese than Antonio, so it was not surprising that he could recognize these two words. Antonio's first reaction was to hang up, but Ovi's eyes could not be ignored. Hanging up Lin Fan's phone in this situation would only make it more obvious. Antonio was not sure whether he wanted to protect Lin Fan more or just wanted to be confirmed, so he answered the phone without much hesitation. Ovi's office was very quiet, and even without the speakerphone, the two could hear Lin Fan's voice clearly. Ovi leaned over to Antonio and turned on the speakerphone and recording when he wasn't paying attention. By the time Antonio realized what was happening, it was too late. Ovi's smile was rare and solemn and faintly intimidating. Antonio was completely vulnerable in front of such a serious old fox and lowered his eyes to accept the arrangement. Anton. Lin Fan's voice was no different from before. Where are you now? Have you returned to China? Antonio wanted to improve his relationship with Lin Fan earlier, so he made small talk and pestered her to give him an H name. Lin Fan also thought that his 4-character name was too difficult to pronounce, so she simply took the first 2 characters of her real name, Anton. It's suitable to be an H name, or an abbreviation, or a nickname. I'm in country P. Antonio saw that things had come to this point, so he stopped resisting and could only go with the flow and adapt to the situation. I wanted to meet you again before leaving, but I left in a hurry and forgot to tell you. Sorry. Lin Fan on the other side could be heard to breathe a sigh of relief and replied, "It's nothing. I've been busy recently and have reduced my contact with you. I can't blame you. I was worried that you were still in Zhugang. Now that you're not there, I'm relieved." After she finished speaking, she asked, "Where are you in country P now? Is it safe?" Antonio's heart stomped. She asked this, could it be? Then he heard the other side say, "Did you know that our Zhugang was beaten badly? Aliens invaded. Oh, did your country P send you a notice? It's not hiding it from you, right?" Antonio's heart fell again. He didn't care at all whether Lin Fan was a star. If he was, he would be even happier. But deep down, he didn't want Ovi to know about this. He always felt that the calculation in his eyes made him uncomfortable. It would affect his simple relationship with Lin Fan. Antonio could only pretend to answer naturally under Ovi's close scrutiny. "I know. I happened to be in Hua province. A wave of attacks hit Hua province earlier. It was really scary." Antonio decided not to ask any more questions, hoping that Lin Fan would not be exposed. If possible, he hoped to have a good chat with Lin Fan in private, not under Ovi's surveillance. Lin Fan quickly reviewed what he could say and what he couldn't say. Since she had some doubts about Antonio, she couldn't expose herself before she was sure. So she said, "Really? Was Hua province attacked? There was no news in H country. How are you? Are you okay?" Seeing that Lin Fan's answer didn't reveal anything, Antonio secretly said something good and replied with a smile, "I'm fine. I've been staying in a safe place. How about you? Are you safe?" "I'm safe too." Gayo, he handled it very well this time. No one was injured, not even a road stubble was damaged. Lin Fan replied with a smile. Neither of them lied, but they both avoided the important point. Ovi especially hated this kind of hypocritical conversation, but he could do nothing about it. You can't let Antonio ask Lin Fan, "Hello, are you a star?" Which fool would answer yes directly? This kind of ineffective question is not as good as the two idiots exchanging feelings. Daily greetings can't last too long. After saying what needs to be said, the phone is hung up. Antonio felt relieved. Fortunately, nothing suspicious was said. He smiled and raised the corners of his mouth. He wanted to refill his glass, and then he heard Ovi knocking his glass on the glass coffee table. "Is this Lin Fan's voice?" Ovi asked with narrowed eyes. "Isn't it exactly the same as in the audio? I can't hide it. I can't hide it." Ovi is not easy to fool. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553, Identity Exposed. This was the first time that Ovi heard Lin Fan's voice. He had always tried to find out, but Lin Fan was cautious and never spoke in front of him. Now, he heard Lin Fan's voice with his own ears. He spoke fluent P language with a pure accent, which was exactly what he had thought before. Moreover, to him, there was no difference between Lin Fan's voice and Xingxing's voice. When Antonio was stunned, Ovi took the phone that he was about to put in his pocket, clicked a few times, and sent the recording to his own phone. "I'll send you a recording and compare it with Xingxing's original voice." He sent the recording in front of Antonio. Voiceprints, like fingerprints, are unique identifiers. Antonio's heartbeat gradually became heavier, but he could do nothing. "What's wrong?" Ovi looked back at Antonio motionlessly, smiled and poured him a glass of wine. "Why do you look so bad?" Antonio grinned, not ready to explain, and took a sip of wine. Ovi didn't want him to answer. Although Antonio was powerful, he joined halfway after all, and had a silly and innocent heart. It's not bad, but in his opinion, those scruples and sympathies are unnecessary. He's still young. But it doesn't matter. After a long time, he will understand that interests are the eternal pursuit. In Antonio's silence, Ovi leaned comfortably on the sofa and clicked on the restored recording of Xingchen. "Are you looking for this?" The amplified cold voice echoed in the spacious room. "Just heard Lin Fan's phone speaker. Now listening to this voice again, anyone with ears will feel that it is similar." Ovi raised his eyebrows and looked at the back of Antonio's head with a smile. Don't you think their voices are very similar? Antonio didn't say anything. He also felt that they were similar, but could he tell Ovi? Although his resistance and struggle were in vain, in order not to feel guilty when facing Lin Fan in the future, Antonio made up his mind not to say anything. Is it a coincidence that things in this world are just coincidences? Lin Fan didn't fight earlier or later, but at this time, even a few minutes earlier, when Ovi was not around, it would be fine, and he would have cut off the sound by himself when he came over. He didn't believe that he could still touch his pants. What the hell? What kind of coincidence is this? Just like he had given up looking for Lin Fan, but he accidentally met him in the city god temple. This damn coincidence is not always so beautiful. Antonio was so depressed that he didn't even move when Ovi's phone rang. Oh, dear Antonio, guess what? Ovi spoke in a dramatic tone. He seemed to be completely blind to Antonio's depression. He stood up and walked to the empty space in front of the sofa and turned an elegant circle. The technical department sent a message that Lin Fan's voiceprint is exactly the same as Xing. Ha 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 ha. Antonio's heart kept sinking in Ovi's laughter, but it suddenly stopped at a certain point. Hiss. If Lin Fan is Xing, what is he afraid of? Thinking of Ovi's usual attitude towards him, there was some flattery in his fear. Thinking of Xing's ability and ruthlessness that were no less than his own, Antonio suddenly had an idea and was no longer worried. Once he thought about it, Antonio soon regained his former sunshine. He leaned back on the sofa, spread his hands, crossed his legs, raised his glass to Aoi, and smiled and congratulated. Congratulations. This time, it was Aoi's turn to choke, and his emotions were not connected. Oh, he reacted so quickly. I'm really disappointed. I said that there must be something wrong with Lin Fan. She must be a serious person to be with that person. Aoi was so happy that he seemed to have won the jackpot. People like them always have a much better sixth sense than others. Aoi has always believed in his intuition, but due to many obstacles, it has never been verified. Now it has finally come to light. Lin Fan is a mecha body. No wonder she can follow the old man alone, and it is obvious that she is inexperienced and a little immature at work. This kind of contradiction and conflict has always been a thing that Aoi couldn't figure out before, but now everything is clear. Like Antonio, she is a latecomer. Her thoughts and behaviors are different from those of them who have been immersed in the system for a long time, and she can't change the naivety of ordinary people. But being naive is good. Ovi clapped his hands and smiled from ear to ear. The more naive she is, the more room he has to maneuver. A little girl is much easier to manipulate than a man like Antonio. Ovi's mind has automatically produced several pages of details of the strategy to attack Lin Fan. No hurry, he will have plenty of opportunities after this wave of alien crisis is resolved. Solving the mystery of Lin Fan's identity is the best news Ovi has received since the attack on Hua province. By the way, I remember you said that you have a good relationship with Lin Fan. After being proud, he leaned in front of Antonio and asked. Antonio blinked and could not deny it. Yes. Not bad. Not that good, but at least Lin Fan made a special call to show concern after returning. According to their identities, Lin Fan cares about him even more than himself. After all, Antonio has never thought of calling to care about his new friend in H country for so long. He felt a little uneasy. That's good. Your relationship with her has a relatively high starting point, and it will develop in the future. Develop? Antonio said. Yes, development. Ovi's expression was as if Lin Fan had changed his camp to country P. You are a man and a woman. Both of you are top level mechas. The man is handsome, the woman is beautiful, with a good figure, strong strength, similar interests, and a common language. Don't you want to develop it in depth? Antonio was stunned by what he said. He really hadn't thought about it. The relationship with Lin Fan was just natural. There was admiration and liking, but it was only based on the category of friends with the same interests. In depth. Antonio thought of the young man named Wu who was often seen beside Lin Fan. Although he was absent for a while, he was almost always there. When he met Lin Fan later, he had a good attitude and did not show obvious rejection, but Antonio could still feel the other party's covetous eyes with his manly intuition. That is, he did not show any further intentions, so the other party could smile and talk to him. Whenever he showed that intention, Antonio suspected that he would be put in a sack in country H maybe more than once. At the beginning, he thought that the man might be interested in Lin Fan, and he could understand it in his heart. Now that he knows Lin Fan's identity, that kind of protection seems to have another meaning. So his good impression of Lin Fan, and the fact that he became familiar with her so quickly, is it also related to the same origin of Mecha? Because they have the same unknown things in their bodies, so they are unconsciously attracted to each other. As for feelings, Antonio has his own ideas. He is a cheerful and sunny Latin man, and does not want to calculate other people's feelings. Let it go. Feelings are something that cannot be forced. If he is really attracted to Lin Fan, and has a romantic relationship with her, I believe no one on Langsing can stop him. If not, Antonio shrugged and drank the whiskey in the glass in one gulp. Then no one can force him. Antonio is a very nice person. Chapter 550 for leadership qualities. Lin Fan didn't know that her identity had been exposed. After hanging up the phone, her doubts were still not answered. She recorded the call and compared it with Antonio's voice in the previous communication software. It was useless because they were the same person. She wanted to compare it with Apollo's voice. Lin Fan rolled her eyes and remembered that the main control had been monitoring the whole scene through her camera. The England system should have recorded Apollo's voice, right? She looked at the time. It was past 1 in the afternoon. I don't know if Wang Fengfeng has woken up yet, so I should go and take a look first. When I walked to the door of the information room, I bumped into ZHU Kunjin, who was also coming. Director ZHU saw Lin Fan's ruddy face and trotting over from a distance. He thought he was looking for him, so he stepped forward and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you so anxious?" Director. Hello, Director. Lin Fan told ZHU Kunjin about the matter outside the door. After listening, ZHU Kunjin took Lin Fan into the information room without saying a word. Who among you is good at audio processing? The information room was not full, and Wang Fengfeng was not at his seat. As soon as ZHU Kunjin's voice came out, a person lying on the table raised a hand in confusion. I'm good at it, I can. He opened his eyes dazedly and saw ZHU Kunjin and Lin Fan. Director Lin. It didn't feel good to be awakened from the hardship. He still felt a little sluggish, but he tried to open his eyes wide and didn't want to delay the business. Lin Fan stepped forward and said this and that and handed over the phone. The technician sat back in the chair and quickly connected the data cable. After a dazzling operation, Lin Fan heard the thank you from Apollo. Is it this, Direct Lin? The technician turned around and asked her. Yes, this is it. Is it too short? Can you make a comparison? Lin Fan suppressed his complicated emotions and tried to make himself more professional. It should be possible, but we still have to wait until the final results come out to know the details. The technician's tone was more confident, but he didn't make too many promises. He imported the audio into a software, and Lin Fan saw that Hua began to draw waves up and down like an electrocardiogram. Director Lin, we are waiting for the sound to be restored. It will take some time. I will go wash my face and come back soon. The technician did not want his condition to delay things, so he used the free time to wait. Lin Fan looked at the waveform jumping up and down, feeling very uneasy. If Apollo is Antonio, then was his previous approach intentional? Was it a routine? Lin Fan quite likes Antonio as a friend and feels happy to get along with him. But if all this is planned and false, then her feelings will be completely wasted. It doesn't feel good to be deceived, especially emotional deception between adults. In comparison, Lin Fan hopes that this Apollo is a stranger. Even if he is difficult to deal with, even if he is a grumpy and wretched man, at least he has no intersection with her past, and she feels more acceptable. She hopes Antonio is not, but there is always an indelible voice in her mind that keeps sounding the alarm. When the Special Affairs Office checked Antonio and said that they could not find any problems, there were 3 guesses. One is that he is just an ordinary person and there is nothing to check. This is the result that Lin Fan hopes for most. The second possibility is that he is a confidential person, but he has no purpose for himself, and the encounter is an accident. Just like Zhao He, Wang Fengfeng, these special technicians. Lin Fan can accept this result. The most feared thing is that Antonio has a special identity like himself and has a purpose. In the previous interactions, Antonio did not have any obvious inappropriateness. Even if Wu Yusen did not find any problems, they gradually let down their guard and only thought it was the first two situations. But now, Lin Fan has an irrepressible fear roaring in his heart. Their speculations are likely to be wrong. Antonio is Apollo with a purpose. It was not until his hand was cold that Lin Fan realized that Wang Fengfeng had come in. He handed her a bottle of iced coke and patted her shoulder. "What are you thinking about? You look so bad." They probably knew what Lin Fan was thinking, and the question was just to interrupt her thoughts and prevent her from indulging in negative emotions. Even if Antonio is Apollo, it is not a big deal. His purpose for Lin Fan is still unknown, but there is no obvious damage at present. Therefore, except for Lin Fan who might feel some emotional hurt from being deceived, Antonio's friendly attitude represents certain opportunities for others. Apollo obviously has a good impression of Country H. If these two are the same person, can they use his friendship with Lin Fan to get people to Country H? The same world, the same leader, and the same calculations. In the end, only Lin Fan's world of harm was achieved. The moment the technician who came back at an unknown time announced the results, Lin Fan felt sad and angry. Does this count as being deceived by a scumbag? Although it is not love, friendship is also love. Zhu Kunjin saw that Lin Fan's eyes were red and his mouth was shaking. He didn't know whether he wanted to cry or scold. Seeing that everything was fine on the screen, Zhu Kunjin sighed and took Lin Fan's hand back to his office. "Come, have some tea." Lin Fan's mind was full of messy thoughts, and all kinds of villains came out to fight, and it was already a mess. Suddenly she came back to her senses, and she was already in Zhu Kunjin's office, and a small teacup with smoke curling up was placed in front of her. It was a small fresh teacup that Zhu Kunjin had specially left for Lin Fan. Lin Fan picked up the tea and drank it in a gulp, filled with righteous indignation, which made Zhu Kunjin feel distressed. If he knew that Lin Fan had always wanted to put a mug in his office specifically for drinking tea, he would probably feel even more distressed. Feeling uncomfortable? After all, Zhu Kunjin was old, and he could still be competent as a close uncle. Lin Fan nodded. Uncomfortable? Feeling deceived? Lin Fan nodded, then shook his head. Not really. Actually, think about it. He didn't lie to me. He just concealed some facts, just like I concealed him. Very good. Zhu Kunjin smiled and poured her tea. You are becoming more and more like a leader. Leadership qualities? Lin Fan was distracted by this unexpected sentence. What other qualities can a leader have? Integrity? Zhu Kunjin was as kind as a bodhisattva in the temple, and quickly answered her. It's calm. A qualified leader must remain calm at all times, so that he can make rational and correct judgments without being swayed by emotions. Lin Fan was a little embarrassed. She was not calm. Whether it was now, or a few days ago, her emotions would easily surge up. Zhu Kunjin smiled and glanced at her, picked up his teacup, and took a sip, then said, it's always like this at the beginning, but you can analyze calmly in a short time. With your qualifications, it's a great improvement. Lin Fan went over his words in her mind, and couldn't tell whether it was a compliment or an insult. But Zhu Kunjin has always been very good to him, so it should be a compliment, right? Lin Fan sorted out his thoughts, and was about to speak, when the office door was knocked twice hurriedly, and then someone pushed the door in. Director, is Lin Fan here? Wu Yusen, whose glasses even showed fatigue, stood at the door weakly, as if he had been drained of his energy by a goblin. This is how poaching works. You want to poach from me, and I want to poach from you. Guess who will succeed in the end? I saw on the news that many places have experienced flooding. Is this typhoon so strong? I have been cool for a few days and thought it would subside by the time it reached my place. I hope everyone can get through this safely. I pray that the flood will pass quickly and everyone will be well. Chapter 555. Half a catty of deception. Lin Fan had never seen Wu Yusen in such a state of embarrassment. He was stunned for a moment, his mind was blank, and he completely forgot what he was going to say. What was going on? Which demon could be stronger than Wu Yusen? Lin Fan, who had done several missions with Wu Yusen, knew that he was very skilled. Of course, when facing a female clown or a pervert like the senior brother, no, it was difficult to resist when facing a master, but under normal circumstances, Wu Yusen's fighting power was off the charts, and he was so handsome. Among the people Lin Fan knew, only Song Ren and Shen Bei could compete with Wu Yusen. Of course, it might also be that there were not many people who had really fought with Lin Fan. Come on, Xiao Wu, come and sit down. The director knew what Wu Yusen had experienced in Zhugang. Looking at the child's wrinkled clothes, his face was full of heartache. Lin Fan watched Wu Yusen approach her step by step, and considerately made room for her to the side, so that he could take less steps. Wu Yusen stared at Lin Fan. Although her eyes were red, she looked dazed, and didn't look emotionally traumatized. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. What did he say? I knew Antonio was a problem. Wu Yusen didn't know how many times he turned back and forth, but he couldn't find an exit with few people in the subway. The people in Zhugang seemed to be really scared. Regardless of whether it was day or not, they refused to go up. Wu Yusen had no choice but to shuttle underground. He kept walking and walking, entered a branch pipeline, and ran out from a very remote tunnel emergency exit. Because it was too remote, there was not even a car on the road. Wu Yusen had to contact the garrison's car, ran over to meet up, and finally took a military plane back to Gao. There were not many cars on the road in Gao, and the subway and other things were all suspended. Fortunately, he drove to the plane by himself, and this time he could drive back to the station directly. After returning to the station and confirming that Lin Fan was there, of course he wanted to see his daughter first and confirm with his own eyes whether she was okay. As a result, no one replied to the message, and when he looked at the group, Antonio had an accident. Wu Yusen called Wang Fengfeng and rushed over after knowing that the person was taken away by Zhu Kunjun. He was relieved after seeing that the person was fine. Being a father is not easy. Wu Yusen was filled with emotion. Fortunately, he was not married. Lin Fan looked at Dad Wu with a worried look on his face. He wanted to show some concern, but his mind was still confused. He opened his mouth several times and didn't know what to say. Wu Yusen, on the other hand, took the initiative to smile and comfort Lin Fan. I'm fine. You don't know, it's really crowded down there in Zhugang. I couldn't even squeeze in with anyone. I felt like I was trekking through mountains and rivers and crossing mountains and ridges in the crowd. Lin Fan understood that feeling. When she was in school, she took a green truck during the new year and deeply experienced the feeling of crossing mountains and ridges and dragging people to go to the toilet. She looked at Wu Yusen's two big dark circles. The color had dropped from 7 points to 4 points. It was useless to smile. She pursed her lips and handed him the new tea poured by Zhu Kunjun. John Woo thanked him with a smile, and after drinking a cup of hot tea, he finally felt alive. The sofa under him usually felt a little hard, but now it felt very soft. If Zhu Kunjun and Lin Fan were not looking at him, he really wanted to collapse like Jeyu without caring about his image. I heard that Antonio is Apollo. John Woo never beat around the bush with Lin Fan and asked directly. Yes, we were just talking about this. Zhu Kunjun introduced with a smile. I told Lin Fan that she already has the qualities that a leader should have. John Woo saw Lin Fan's relatively calm expression, blinked, and understood. Lin Fan is getting calmer and calmer now. She is getting calmer and more composed when encountering things. Director, you will see that she is destined to be a good leader. So when will you give her a raise? Zhu Kunjun nodded repeatedly while listening to the first part until the last sentence. He pointed helplessly at Wu Yusen, who was trying to take credit for Lin Fan, and said with a smile, "You. Could I have forgotten it?" Wu Yusen smiled. "Hey, I can't. You know me, I speak directly." The director turned to Lin Fan unhappily. "You will definitely be ranked first in terms of merit and reward. We will all remember it for you. It's inevitable. But the current situation is like this, and it is likely that we will have to wait until it is stable before we can settle the accounts. You just wait a little longer." Lin Fan didn't know why the topic turned to this, but more money is always good. Who would refuse a salary increase? She said in a daze, "Don't worry, I'm not in a hurry." Why was she here? For a moment, she couldn't remember. When Lin Fan was doubting her life, she didn't see Wu Yusen give Zhu Kunjin a smug look. Jin Sichin had said long ago that Lin Fan's brain couldn't handle several things at the same time. So when she was in a negative mood, the best way was to use other things to quickly attract her attention. Even if she came back later, without the initial emotional shock, her rationality would return, and usually the development of things would be relatively mild. This trick was tried and tested by John Woo, but it was the first time that Zhu Kunjin saw it in action. Looking at the two favorites, he wished he was 20 years younger and could hang out with them every day. Sure enough, Lin Fan, who was interrupted by things continuously, could not find any trace of the previous sad emotions. When she thought of Antonio again, she felt no longer sad. Actually, let me be fair. John Woo knocked on the table to attract Lin Fan's attention. Although I don't like this Antonio, if he is doing something to hurt you, I can definitely find it. Lin Fan looked at him seriously. Wu Yusen continued, according to my speculation, his interaction with you may not have been a coincidence at first. He should have known you. But in the later interactions, at least the part one participated in, he did not have a clear purpose. Lin Fan recalled the two people's interactions. Except for the first time asking for directions, there was a possibility of deliberateness, and the later rescue was really just a coincidence. I became familiar with him because of that rescue, and I felt that he was a good person. Later, when we talked, we had similar interests, so we gradually became familiar with each other. Lin Fan lowered his eyes to recall, and raised his eyes to ask Wu Yusen again. I also told you about the time when you were not there. Do you think he deliberately catered to my preferences and acted out an appearance? Acting? Then his acting skills are too good. Wu Yusen shook his head slowly. Although there is no way to completely deny it, I think this possibility is not high. I think so. Zhu Kunjin interrupted with a smile while holding a teacup. Under the premise that Antonio is Apollo, he has no need to cater to you unless he is born with an acting personality. Lin Fan thought about it, and it was right. Apollo's status in Country P must be quite high. She has almost everything she wants in Country H, and Antonio should be similar. There is no need to lower his posture to please her, right? Besides, he probably didn't know Xingqian at the beginning. Maybe he just learned about her from OV, but there was no chance for them to find out more. So Antonio's strange feeling when he first met her should not be fake. Later, they had similar interests and got along well. According to the director, the possibility of acting was not that great. Except for the first time he met by chance, their relationship was natural afterwards. Antonio did not show any intention, and she did it casually. Just like she said, didn't she hide the secret of his Mecha? She was half a catty, and Antonio was 8 tails. Except for his impure motives for the initial encounter, there seemed to be nothing to blame later. Lin Fan sighed and looked up at the sky. Can this friend still be kept? The friendship will not be broken off. At most he will be angry for a while. The main reason was that Antonio really had no intentions during the relationship. Otherwise the two would have broken up the moment John Woo appeared. Chapter 556. The Brave Wins. Gro did not let them wait too long. There was movement again in the evening. Lin Fan and Zhu Kunjin were looking at the large screen in the information room, frowning at the numerous unidentified objects that Gro had just released. What is that? Zhu Kunjin asked. Are there any clearer images? No, director. The technicians quickly switched between the screens. The space telescope dare not get too close to Gro, for fear of being destroyed by him. Since Gro appeared next to the moon, almost all spacecraft have adjusted their course trajectories. They can only observe quietly from a safe distance and put away space junk for fear of attracting Gro's attention. After cooperating with Party P, the two sides opened up the sharing rights of the telescope in order to show each other sincerity. In fact, the impact of sharing or not is not particularly large. The spacecraft in space are originally mixed together, but with the increase of cameras, the observation angles are indeed much more. It is even more convenient for computer technicians like Wang Fengfeng. After all, at this special time, it is really more convenient to find pictures on the black network than to take them directly. It is unknown when the two countries work together like this. Both sides have various thoughts, both open and secret, and no one can take the initiative to destroy this deliberately created harmonious relationship. Sen Fangyuan and the big secret group in the Party P think tank had a spit and pulled to the limit. Just like this, when Lin Fan came out of ZHU Kunjin's office, this strange alliance that looked fragile, but was actually quite reliable was established. A few days ago, they wanted to kill each other, but suddenly they were arm in arm, and calling each other brothers. When Lin Fan found out, the corners of her mouth twitched. This happened too fast. While lamenting that the adult world is not easy, she also understood it. She and Apollo guarded each side, and only by joining forces can the interests be maximized. In the absence of other mechas, the two countries have already taken the lead in other regions. In short, the hostile situation between P and H countries is gone forever, and everyone is now a good partner with the same interests. Obviously, what Grow released this time is no longer the advanced ship that carried the army of insects before. The size is less than half of the advanced ship, but the number is much larger. The good news is that Grow is not over H country, and these new droplets will not enter H country directly in theory. But there is no guarantee, because they found that when these things approached the atmosphere, they began to disperse from a regular team. At this time, they finally saw what the latest threat was. The regular shape is a bit like a pyramid, but the adjacent facades on the two sides are like enlarged leaves. What is it? Everyone in the control room frowned. What's the difference between seeing it clearly and not seeing it clearly? Does this kind of aircraft also carry bugs? Will the bugs be more powerful if the aircraft is newly replaced? If they follow their current flight trajectory, they will most likely fall into the territory of Country E. The technician reported quickly. Country E is above Country H, with a vast area and extremely cold. During the new year, one of the parties that said they would fight was him. Country E is known for its tough bones, big fists, and brave temper. It is not afraid of anyone, and will just fight. It has always maintained a good alliance with Country H. This time they are not fake brothers. According to the origin of the last century, they can barely be considered brothers. When Country H informed Party P of the news of the alien invasion, it naturally did not forget its big brother. Unexpectedly, after that buddy knew about it, he did not stop working and insisted on forcing the guy who provoked him to admit defeat. Country H could not interfere with other people's decisions and could only be prepared to support at any time. Friendship is one aspect, and on the other hand, because the two countries are too close, if Country E is invaded by Grow, Country H, as a close neighbor, will also be in trouble. Seeing that this round, the big brother will be unlucky, the general manager communicated with the old man and was ready to let Lin Fan equip himself, but he was silenced by a round of anti-aircraft artillery from the other side. After the fireworks dissipated, the triangle was still intact, not even a scratch on the top coat, and it landed on the ground unmoved. Party E didn't care whether it had any effect or not, and fired missiles upwards like crazy. Whether it was Country H or Country P, everyone who saw this scene was stunned. The old man was stunned for a moment, then smiled "I knew it," and shook his head helplessly. He is still so brave. It doesn't matter whether it works or not, just fight. This kind of behavior, which is privately labeled as reckless by Country P, also makes others think twice when they want to do bad things to Country E. Fight, the kind that will not stop until you cry and admit defeat. Therefore, the hegemon Country P dares to make some covert little moves with Country H, but when facing Country E, it only dares to talk. After all, Country E is not like Country P, a good guy. If you make him angry, he will hurt the enemy by 1,000 and lose 800. He will not hesitate. Country P has always believed that interests are supreme. In front of this group of reckless people in Country E, it has no room to display. It can only give in, and then provoke from time to time. That's all. Fortunately, although Country E is reckless, they have a bottom line, unlike Country P, which makes trouble everywhere. Based on the basic principle of I will not offend others if others do not offend me, Country E still has a very good reputation in Lansing. After a round of bombardment, the fireworks gradually died down, and the commander estimated that a round of artillery fire had been completed, and then he would see the effect. It worked. Someone exclaimed in joy. The chief crossed his arms and frowned as he watched the latest footage. It was not known whether the shock wave from the missile really pushed the triangle away, or whether the triangle could not stand such intensive interference and automatically gave way. In short, all the triangles that were originally going to fall into the territory of country E were broken up and fell into other nearby territories of G according to the current trajectory. Only 1/3 of the triangles will eventually fall into the territory of country E. No matter what this triangle is, it is obvious that the pressure faced by country E has been reduced by more than half. Although not all of them have been solved, it is already very good to be able to do this relying solely on land crossing zone capabilities. It's just that the neighboring countries are a bit unlucky. 10,000 dirty words are probably flying in the sky. Among them, except for country E, the one who fell the most triangles was the opponent who annoyed him. People in the military don't believe it anyway if they say that there is no deliberate element in this. But then again, if country E falls, the surrounding small countries will sooner or later face such a crisis. Although E countries' approach is not good to look at, it is better to save their own country than to kill their fellow Taoists. If conditions permit, who would not do this? Sure enough, the brave can create miracles. The technicians of the Special Affairs Office were also stunned by this direct and rough fighting style. More importantly, it worked. Their situation is special. ZHU Kunjin explained with a smile. Because of the previous war, many places in E country were scrapped. They launched fire attacks without as many concerns as we do. So that's it. Lin Fan sat on the chair next to ZHU Kunjin and nodded. In other words, if we go all out, can we achieve such an effect? A technician turned around and asked. It will definitely not be worse than him, but the cost is very high. ZHU Kunjin replied, it is not easy to build a city like this. It took decades. If you want to turn it into ruins, missiles can be fired in less than a few minutes. Is this the result we want? No. Everyone shook their heads silently. So, while we can still resist, we try not to make a plan that will destroy everything. ZHU Kunjin smiled faintly as he watched the triangular cones on the screen fall to the ground one after another, stirring up heavy smoke and dust. The corners of his raised mouth slightly turned down, and he exhaled from his nose. I just don't know if Group A will cooperate. This should be no problem, right? It should be okay, right? Chapter 557, Evil Intentions. Gro didn't cooperate. Before the Langsing people figured out what the triangular cones were for, they started a new wave of launches. It was still the same triangular cone aircraft, and they were also launched in batches. The only difference was the launch location, which was no longer in the E country. Where is it this time? OV held the railing tightly with both hands, hoping that they would not be thrown into P country. I don't know if OV's sincerity moved God, but this wave of triangular cones fell at the intersection of Eurasia. Although there are many small countries in this area, most of them are mountains, straits, and various seas and rivers. The good news is that there are not many people, and the bad news is that there are not many people. The triangular cones did not choose any special location, and fell into the mountains and forests, on the cliffs, and even sank directly into the sea. Those that fell into the sea were of course not cared about, but the triangular cones in other places made everyone a little worried. It's not easy to rush to those corners. The person in charge of infrastructure in Sijiu City sighed. There is no need to worry about casualties, but in places with vast land and sparse population, if the other party does something bad, there is no way to intervene in time. At that time, we can only let Xingqian go. Oh, there is also Apollo. Let's wait and see. The general had thought of it a long time ago, and said in a deep voice. There was no movement after the triangular cones landed. The soldiers of country E had arrived at the scene, and surrounded the cones from a distance. There were also brave ones who ran close to observe and listen, but there was not even a trace of sound. When everyone looked at each other, Gro started a new wave of deployment. This time, it was scattered all over Europe without any surprise. No country, big or small, was spared. What exactly does it want to do? OV looked at the trajectory. If nothing unexpected happened, it would be their turn to cross the ocean. Is Gro going to scatter all over Langsing this time? But what is the use of these motionless triangular cones? The technicians of Country P quickly marked the triangular cones that could be located and soon found a pattern on the map of Langsing. Except for those opened by Country E, the other landing points are evenly distributed. The technicians of the Special Affairs Office discovered the pattern one step ahead. Because they were too evenly distributed. In the case of insufficient numbers, the triangle cones were basically distributed in the northern area, and the middle and southern hemisphere were almost not affected. What OV was anxious about was that Country P was on the trajectory of Gro's next few steps. Country H might be able to avoid it, or it might not. But no matter what, if it continues like this, Country P will inevitably face a crisis first. Compared with the populous Country H, many places in Country P can be considered sparsely populated. TSK, this is the first time I think having more people is a good thing. He was so happy to see Country E suffer just now, and now he is so depressed. But emotions are emotions, and as a qualified leader, he will naturally not be vague about what he should do. After quickly deploying the manpower, OV looked back and saw a new wave of triangle cones being thrown into the sea. He frowned. Why does Gro want to throw them into the sea? Could it be throwing them into the sea will still work? The person in charge of armaments in the control room of Sagio City insisted. Nowadays, with our level, submarines can operate normally when they go to sea. There is no reason why Gro's technology cannot do it. The head of the armament said to the chief. And Gro has received information transmission from Langsing before. According to the news from the Special Affairs Office, it was the previously famous AI database. Sen Fangyuan added, although they interrupted it in time, Gro must have received a lot of information from Langsing. Even if they did not receive geographical information, according to the common sense of planetary navigation and the observations of the advanced ships entering Langsing during the previous invasions, it should be easy to judge the land and sea. Knowingly committing a crime must have a deeper meaning. In many cases, when it comes to crisis, people would rather face the outbreak directly than wait for the unknown results. Country P was not surprised to be sprinkled with a wave of triangular cones, and not long after, Country H was not spared. But these triangular cones did not reveal any problems from beginning to end. No strange insects came out of them, no strange gas or liquid leaked, and there was no more fierce artillery attack. Some small countries did not believe in evil and went forward to pry and melt them with fire, but all efforts were in vain. The people who were watching were worried that such behavior would anger the creatures in the triangle cones and make them rise up, so they were ready for defense. But no matter how others provoked them, these things were as motionless as sculptures. But why would Gro go to such great lengths to send so many sculptures? No one knew what Gro's move was for, but they all knew that it was definitely not a good intention. The silent triangle cones did not make everyone feel at ease. As the number of them continued to increase, everyone felt an increasingly urgent sense of crisis. It was like putting a bomb with an undetermined explosion date next to the pillow. There was no idea when it would explode and hurt people, but its danger level would not be reduced at all because of the current silence. This night passed in this quiet crisis. As more and more locations were placed, the lines connecting the various places became denser and denser. Is this trying to weave a net? The insect expert murmured. As the leading expert in the country, who knew insects like the back of his hand, he was specially approved to enter the main control room. The higher-ups thought that Gro was most likely a Zerg. Although the species are different, some characteristics are more familiar to entomologists. Bringing him to the scene is much more convenient than video linking. A word awakened the dreamer. Spiders that can weave webs have already appeared, and the webs now are obviously not the spider webs they imagined, but more like signal network. The technicians in the Special Affairs Office almost jumped up. When they didn't think about it, their heads were full of question marks, but once they put it into the signal network, they immediately felt that it was perfect. That thing may be a signal transmitter. A technician shouted. Jero wants to build his own signal network on Langsing. These bastards. The technicians cursed in their mouths, and their fingers flew in their hearts, and they pounded on the keyboard. Building a signal network. Is it very harmful? Lin Fan didn't understand it very well, So he asked ZHU Kunjin quietly. As a result, Wang Feng's voice sounded from behind. It's very harmful. He just went back to sleep, but he didn't expect Gro to be unscrupulous and start information warfare. With this technological gap, can they beat him? Shit. Wang Feng looked sullen as he continued to explain to Lin Fan. Once its information network is successfully built, it will most likely interfere with our existing network. From the signal transmission of the space telescope and the connection with country P to our internal communications and even your Mecha system, all will be disconnected. Oh, Lin Fan understood. The online game has become a standalone game. This is not good. Without sufficient information transmission, they are like blind people and can only see the area in front of them. No matter how powerful Xingqian or Apollo is, they can't cook without rice. This is really a sinister intention. La la. Chapter 558 Physical Destruction. But if we want to intercept the telescope's signal, Antonio didn't quite understand and was asking OV, wouldn't it be more convenient to just shoot down the telescope? Or set up a signal shield or something? It should be easy for a spacecraft like that, right? In Antonio's opinion, such a widespread network of points seemed a bit superfluous for a high-tech spacecraft like Gro. So network interference is only one of the purposes of this wave of deployment. OV looked at the technicians in the Starfish building who were also busy with the sound of keyboards. What about the others? Antonio asked. Others? How would we know? OV sighed helplessly, but I know you will be busy soon. Oh, and my beautiful stars. Sure enough, after knowing what Gro was planning, Country H also took full action. How is it? The chief asked. Can we intercept it? Not easy. ZHU Kunjin answered the screen. We followed the signal line and found abnormal signal fluctuations. But there may still be a technological gap between Gro and us, and our interference has little effect. The chief nodded. So we can only use physical interference. Physical interference means directly destroying the signal transmitter. Xingqian and Apollo can only do this. In addition, deploy the Navy and Air Force. The chief ordered his subordinates next to him. Those that have fallen into the sea or remote places do not count. In addition, follow the method of Country E and shoot them to one location. You can't open fire in the city, but there are no such concerns in the uninhabited mountains and the sea. Gro's signal transmitters are densely packed. It's unknown when two mechas can completely clear them. It may be okay on land, but the depth of the sea is unknown, and it's unknown how much time it will take for the mechas to go down. Since the artillery attack of Country E can make these transmitters deviate from their original positions, it is not difficult to shoot them to a relatively concentrated location for Xingqian to deal with them. It just so happened that since Gro's invasion, the military had been unable to open fire because of various reasons such as infrastructure, which made them feel very frustrated. It was already the fourth day, and their group of passionate kids were still holding back. It was time for them to show off. It was a good opportunity to show old P the true military strength of his country H. Where's Xingqian? The chief asked again. She's already entered the passage, waiting for your order. ZHU Kunjin smiled. They had expected this development a long time ago, and Lin Fan rushed out without waiting for the general control to order. Okay. Send her the location, and destroy those launch devices to the maximum extent. The chief ordered. Lin Fan rushed to the sky and located it. Even though he had seen it on the big screen in the information room, it was even more crowded when the dense dots gathered on the small eyepiece. The small dots were connected into a piece, and there was almost no gap in the upper half of the world map. Lin Fan asked Xinglan to zoom in on the picture and start processing from the closest one. When he looked at it up close, Lin Fan felt that it was not like a pyramid or a triangular cone, but more like an enlarged version of a tent. She used her spear to poke the seemingly solid shell. It was not as difficult as she had imagined. It was somewhat similar to the advanced ship. Lin Fan, in the spirit of exploring and seeking truth, disassembled the things in front of him piece by piece. There was no embarrassing scene of the gun getting stuck. Lin Fan disassembled it very smoothly. After tearing the shell open bit by bit, the structure inside did not make everyone waiting in front of the screen suddenly clear. The incomprehensible structure and incomprehensible parts were all incomprehensible. The senior officials on Lansing once again felt the gap in technology, helpless and uncomfortable. After confirming that the signal could be blocked after disassembling, Lin Fan tried electric shock again, which was also successful. Then he began to play freely. However, the person in charge of the armaments made a request to her. If possible, destroy those parts that cannot be touched and try to keep the interior and core as much as possible. Okay. He was thinking about whether he could copy and absorb experience from Gro's technological products and turn them into his own. Lin Fan realized it, and after testing a few, he finally found the most suitable method. She used the smallest angle to open the shell as completely as possible so that he could keep a complete large piece. Then, after destroying several flawless firmwares, they applied a small electric shock to the running kernel. Hey, done. It sounds easy, but it actually takes a lot of time. After Lin Fan cooked it, it took him about 10 minutes to do one. If he was really tired, he would just shoot through it and then use another electric shock to finish it. Repeating work is not a happy thing, not to mention running back and forth in the middle. The control room gave her instructions, telling her not to clear them one by one, but to try to destroy a few at intervals. Lin Fan thought about it and understood what they meant. Since these signal devices are deployed at fixed locations, their signal transmission distance must also be limited. Rather than clearing them one by one, destroying their network first and breaking them into pieces is the fastest way. When the network is broken, go back and slowly clean up the fragmented remnants, and the impact will never be much greater than the one in front of you. Lin Fan followed the order. On the big screen, the Gro network that appeared after the attack by the Lansing technicians was being disintegrated bit by bit. Apollo was doing the same thing, trying to destroy his network structure. Gro's deployment did not stop because of their actions. Maybe they felt that with such a large number, the backward Lansing people could not stop them. Or maybe the program was set and could not be interrupted. Who knows? Anyway, Lin Fan and Antonio destroyed Thurs, and Gro shot his own. When the next wave came to the coast of Country H, Lin Fan was called over to deal with the trouble on the sea first. Without saying a word, she immediately flew to the sea, after dealing with the one in her hand. The latest navigation is based on space positioning. On the sea, more than a dozen warships were anchored in the specified range according to the positioning, raising anti-aircraft guns and firing at the sky. Fighters patrolled back and forth on the sea, shuttling quickly, as if to determine the latest positioning and report to the warships in advance. The launch device, which was also extremely huge in the eyes of Xingqian, was like an iron can hit by a bomb, and it could not fall down. Whenever it fell, a row of artillery on the ship would bang 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 to stop it from falling into the sea. How much artillery would it cost? Lin Fan was already distressed before the people arrived. With a flap of the big wings, it accelerated again and rushed forward. The fighter plane patrolling in the sky only saw a flash of white light passing through, followed by a strong sonic boom. Is it Xingqian? The fighter pilot had seen Xingqian on the video, but this was the first time he had come into close contact with it. It was different from the video, and seemed to be even more powerful. Lin Fan didn't bother to greet others, and inserted a launcher with one gun, and discharged it directly, and finished it, and called it a day. She lifted the damaged big guy, and put it on the front deck of the battleship, which pushed the battleship back a long way. Lin Fan was shocked, and thought, will it sink? Fortunately, the battleship is a steel behemoth after all, and it is not so easy to sink. It's just that the extra load has pressed the hull down again. Lin Fan saw that it was fine, and he drew his gun neatly, and rushed to the next point. If you delay this moment, you don't know how much firepower will be wasted. You have to hurry up, but it's all money. I was lazy about the battleship, and there are actually many specifications. But I thought, supporting role, forget it, I won't look up the information, hahaha. Everyone feels it, just get the idea, hahaha. Chapter 559 Materials that can be used to make mechas. After resolving the temporary crisis on the sea, Lin Fan temporarily ignored the land-based launchers and went directly to the sea to salvage. Xingqian's movement in the sea was not as difficult as the leaders thought. Lin Fan even felt that it was smoother to swim in the sea water than to fly in the air. The big wings turned into fins at this time, swinging flexibly to control the direction. The distance between the launchers in the sea is the same as on land. The only difference is the depth of the landing trench. Lin Fan felt that it was no different from climbing a mountain. The only thing to pay attention to is that you can't discharge in the sea. You have to use a long spear to fork it and drag it away from the sea surface before you can do it. The ships on the sea have been following her. When they are full of spoils, they return to the ship and change to empty ships to continue. The ships on the sea are coming and going, which is unprecedentedly lively. After staying in the sea for a while, go to the shore, and when you are tired on the shore, go to the sea again. This job is like screwing screws on an assembly line. It looks very easy to do it alone, but once it is continuous, anyone who is not a machine will feel tired, whether it is physically or mentally. Lin Fan was busy for a long time, looking at the latest display on the map. The intrusions have been reduced by half, so she decided to take a break. The main reason was that she kept seeing ships coming and going, and she couldn't help but think of the miserable situation after the last sea operation. Even though she has grown a lot now, she can't guarantee that she will be exhausted if she continues. Can Xingqian fall down at this time? Definitely not. So after applying to the general control, she got 2 hours of rest time. 2 hours doesn't seem short, but Lin Fan takes more than an hour to eat. You can't let her continue to work after eating, right? You can't use the donkeys in the production team like this, let alone your own precious eggs. Gross deployment has been completed long ago. The general felt that the current situation was under control very well. In another half day, the launcher could basically be cleared, and he wanted Lin Fan to rest for a while. But Lin Fan herself said that 2 hours was enough. There was work on hand, and she felt uneasy if she didn't finish it. What a good child. The general sighed in his heart. With such a strong, hard-working, and humble child at the forefront, the unknown outcome brought by the alien forces does not seem so scary. Report. The head portrait of the armament director appeared on the big screen, and he smiled brightly and couldn't hide his happy mood. We found that the shell material of the launcher can be processed and smelted, and its strength is far greater than carbon acetylene. Carbon acetylene is currently the hardest material on Langsing. Because it is difficult to synthesize, it cannot be widely used. The shell of 800's bionic armor is made of carbon acetylene, and a thin layer of 818 is coated on the outside. That's how it was. When fighting with the green turtle, Gao Fei was broken. His Yufeng was deformed, and it was only repaired by smelting and rebuilding during his recovery. In short, the reason why Cui Yan's envisioned mecha team was not formed, and only a 10-man team was formed, was that there was no suitable material. Although there is an unknown substance that is very similar to 818, the entire smelting is too laborious, and it is a bit too wasteful to only coat it with an outer film. The overall benefits brought by a substance that is suspected to be able to transform into a mecha are far greater than splitting it. Later, the Special Affairs Office and the military sent people to search for it, but it is not that easy to find. The fact that there are only 3 mecha people in the world shows how small the proportion is. Of course, one of them is dead. Now suddenly, it is said that there is a material that is harder than carbon acetylene and easier to melt. It was sent by Grow, and it takes almost no effort. The general manager thought about the dense number of launchers, and seemed to have seen the silhouette of the mecha army coming towards him from afar. He slapped his thigh, and showed a rare happy expression. Are you sure? Can we use it? Yes. The head of the armament was also excited. Although the operation is not easy, it is much easier than synthesizing carbon acetylene. Judging from the actual combat performance of the 800 mecha team, training drivers is not particularly difficult. The only difficulty is the mecha. The difficulty of mecha manufacturing is concentrated on materials and energy. If the material problem can be solved now, the energy problem. The general manager heard that the world tree contains a lot of high-tech knowledge. He estimated that the energy problem will be solved in the near future. In the control room, everyone was very happy to hear the news. How does the hardness of the new material compare to the current shell of the bionic armor? Sen Fangyuan raised his hand to ask. From the previous performance of the mecha team, the hardness of the bionic armor is far beyond the biological shell of insects. The head of the armament grinned. Speaking of the shell of insects, it is also a very good smelting material. The hardness and defense capabilities are far beyond our native materials. It is also very good for making weapons. I'm getting off topic. The head smiled shyly and returned to the topic. The shells of those aircraft are much harder than biological shells. There is no chance to test them against the bionic armor yet. However, since Xingqian and Apollo can easily cut them open, I estimate that the hardness should not be stronger than Xingqian. However, there is only a thin layer of coating on the bionic armor. It's hard to say for sure. Even if it's not as good as Xingqian, the amount of materials is huge. Someone next to him said, "So much, enough to package." The man suddenly realized that this was a matter for the military, and it was inappropriate for him to interrupt, so he stopped talking in time. The people in the military were immersed in joy, and no one found fault with him. "Thank you for your hard work." The matter of the Mecha Core. The General Chief pondered for a moment. We still need to think about it in the long run. But, it's also good to prepare in advance. Understood. The head of the armament saluted and disappeared from the screen. The control room was full of laughter, and the cafeteria of the Special Affairs office was also relaxed. Lin Fan went directly into the cafeteria from the special passage, and the food inside had been arranged by Wu Yusen. She took the wet wipes handed over by Wang Fengfeng without hesitation, wiped her face and hands, and sat down. "How do you, a busy person, have time to show up here?" She picked up the chopsticks, picked up a chopstick of noodles, and put it in her mouth. "What are you talking about?" Wang Fengfeng smiled in front of her with a coke. "The donkeys in the production team also need to rest, right? Without my company, where will your happiness come from?" Lin Fan smiled with something in her mouth, and then she started coughing. Wu Yusen immediately patted her back. "Slow down." At the same time, he glared at Wang Fengfeng. Wang Fengfeng's neck shrank, and he buried his head in the cup guiltily. Lin Fan choked on her face with tears, and touched her chest in pain. Who would have thought that she, who could do anything, would be choked to death by a small bowl of noodles? However, no matter how uncomfortable it was, this feeling of frustration and powerlessness also made Lin Fan feel that she was still a living person. She took the tissue handed over by Wu Yusen, wiped her face casually, and smiled at Wang Fengfeng, who was feeling guilty. "You can still find new gossip in your busy schedule at this time. You really deserve to be the gossip king I personally appointed. Come on, tell me, what happiness do you have? Which kid was worried about the materials for the mecha before? Isn't he here? The enemy built it for us. It's worth it." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560, Leading in Combat Power. No matter how capable Wang Fengfeng is, he can't spare the time to gossip about trivial matters at this time, so what he shared with Lin Fan was the exclusive gossip that could only be obtained in the information room during this period. "You didn't see it, but I'm so happy." Wang Fengfeng was talking about their small neighboring country. It's not very big in area, but it has a big temper. It usually talks a lot, and is particularly undisciplined. It always uses words to slander their country. They are all trivial matters. There is no need to argue with him. After all, their country is a great and ancient country. Because of these trivial matters, it is really a lowering of status to confront this small country. It's like the king of beasts confronting the dung beetle. It's not worth mentioning. Just when you are about to take it seriously, it's easy to slap it to death, but you will inevitably be labeled as bullying the weak and having no tolerance. Not to mention that old P has been waiting to catch them with the handle. The consequences will be much more troublesome than being disgusted by a few words. But if you don't care, the other party is like a toad lying on your feet, which is very annoying. The higher-ups can't do anything about this kind of problem, and can only let the people have a verbal fight. The netizens of country H are so fierce, they swarmed and grabbed the other party's various inappropriate behaviors and criticized them. The other party was not to be outdone. Although it is a small country, it vividly showed the world what it means to be arrogant. I sprayed back without blushing or beating my heart. In the end, it became a daily scene for the netizens of Country H and the netizens of the Dung Beetle country to spray and criticize each other on the internet every now and then. Emotions were vented, and there was no substantial impact on the relationship with the upper level. Perfect. Wang Fengfeng didn't know how others felt. Anyway, as a pioneer of the internet, he had spent a lot of time and effort on that little neighbor. Every time he was so suffocated because he couldn't be ruthless. Now that he has turned the tables, if the situation hadn't been tense, he would have really wanted to run to the people's square, put his hands on his hips, and roar to the sky. Lin Fan looked up with a mouthful of food in his mouth. Isn't it a little brother of Country P? Why did it come to us for help? Don't talk when you have something in your mouth. Wu Yusen knocked on the wall of the cup next to her with chopsticks. Did you forget just now? Lin Fan chewed quickly with a guilty conscience, swallowed the food, and took another sip from the cup, wishing she could open her mouth again for Wu Yusen to check. She turned her head to take a look, and Wu Yusen didn't say anything. Why is this guy becoming more and more like a father? He manages her like his daughter. Is it menopause? The age is wrong. Could it be a sequel of Shrinking Back then? Lin Fan looked at him with a strange look, and quickly turned away before Wu Yusen looked over. No way. I treat him as a friend, but he wants to take advantage of me? What's wrong? Wu Yusen asked curiously, when he saw Lin Fan suddenly stop. Nothing. Lin Fan quickly raised his eyebrows to Wang Fengfeng, who was also watching his expression, signaling him to continue. Wang Fengfeng saw that Wu Yusen had no objection and continued to speak freely. It is indeed the vanguard of P country, but you don't see the time now. P country is 108,000 miles away from it, separated by an ocean, and on the back of Langsing. If there is really something, can P country control it? Lin Fan continued to eat, listening with his ears, and shook his head naturally. Along with the news of the alien invasion, there are also videos of our resistance. In terms of strength, our current combat power is higher than that of P country, and the distance is close. It is normal for it to surrender to us. Wu Yusen said. We are stronger than Country P. Lin Fan's eyes lit up. I thought we were evenly matched. How could that be? Wang Fengfeng replied with a smile. Your thinking is too conservative. Doesn't Country P have an Apollo? Lin Fan curled his lips. Although I haven't fought him and can't tell who is stronger, but you know the situation of biological armor. Country P has it, which is a kind of hard power in itself. Xingqian and Apollo are both evolved mechas. Although Xingqian still has a little bit of 818 that has not been absorbed, it should be basically relatively complete. Apollo's shape is similar to hers. Whether it is the size, structure, weapons, or the big wings behind, it should be not much different from Xingqian's evolution level, or even higher. Everyone has seen the hard power shown by the two in the battle in Hua province. It can be said that no matter which country has such a killer weapon, even a small neighbor, the overall strength can jump to the top. After decades of development, Country H's technology has developed rapidly, narrowing the gap between the two countries at the fastest speed. But to be honest, Country P is still slightly better in this regard. But H country also has advantages that P country does not have: a large population, strong obedience, and unparalleled cohesion. The whole world knows how powerful the warriors of H country are. In almost every competition, H country always wins the championship. No one wants to let H country take the lead, but its strength is indeed unmatched. This thing is like a table tennis match. As long as H country participates, it seems that there is no suspense. Most countries have admitted that the gap is too big, so the important thing is to participate and join in the fun. But some people can't stop feeling aggrieved, so the incident of Song Ren being plotted against happened. But even if the semi-champion was plotted against, Song Ren finally dragged the person who harmed him down with him. As a result, in the following competitions, the people of H country were like crazy, and they intimidated other participating countries. Even if some people are unhappy, they dare not do that kind of tricks again. With a large population, there are naturally more people in the military. Even if the armaments are a little bit worse, this disadvantage is completely overshadowed by the advantage in numbers. Even if there are many ants, they can still kill an elephant. Not to mention that the ordinary individual capabilities of the H country military are stronger than those of the P country. So from this aspect, the two countries are almost evenly matched. But if they really fight, the probability of H country winning over P country is far more than 50%. In terms of stamina, no one can compare to E country. But E country's stamina is daily stamina. And H country's burst is like beating a boss to the point of low health before it goes berserk. Most H country people are in a loose state on weekdays. But once they are irritated, the stamina in their bones will come out. Even if they die together, they will tear off a layer of skin from the other party. P country has experienced this group of people decades ago, so for so many years, even if they dislike H country, they dare not confront it head on. So before a Apollo appeared, Lin Fan was confident in her own strength. But after knowing that P country also has Apollo, she felt that the two countries were equal again. In addition, P country is domineering in daily behavior, while H country has always been a good guy. The ferocity and brutality of country P will make people feel that it is ahead of country H. You forgot about our institute, right? Wang Fengfeng laughed. The talents of the Special Affairs Institute are a very scary force. On the other hand, country P usually shoots a lot of movies, with heroes here and there. But when the critical moment comes, there is no hero. Ha ha ha. Lin Fan couldn't help laughing when he saw Wang Fengfeng's expression. Although gloating is not good, but it's really cool. Chapter 561 John Woo's worry. H country and P country were divided into two sides of Lansing, and they tacitly classified the hemisphere they were in as their own protection area. Wang Fengfeng explained the faces of those G families who used to make trouble for H country when they came to surrender. Not only Lin Fan, but also Wu Yusen couldn't help feeling refreshed. In a happy and joyful atmosphere, Lin Fan replenished her energy and went out to work again. After Wu Yusen sent her away, he stopped Wang Fengfeng who was about to run away. Wait, I have something to ask you. Wang Fengfeng paused, as if he guessed what he was going to say. His expression was a little helpless, but he still sat back. What happened to Lin Fan and the 49 subway? Sure enough, the villain in Wang Fengfeng snapped his fingers happily. I only found out that Lin Fan's whole momentum has changed a lot when I came back this time. Wu Yusen noticed Lin Fan at first sight, but at that time he had Antonio's troubles to solve, so he was not stupid enough to ask directly, and simply pretended not to know. After coming out of the director's office, he wanted to ask, but there was no suitable test machine, and his body was really at its limit. When people are tired, they can't do things well, and it's easy to make mistakes. Seeing that Lin Fan was still in a relatively positive state, Wu Yusen decided not to dwell on what had happened, and went back to his room to have a good sleep. When he woke up, Lin Fan was already working outside. The director and Wang Fengfeng were busy in the information room, and he couldn't go in to interfere. Wu Yusen had guts, because when Lin Fan was fighting in Sigio City, he was hiding in a building in Gao with Zaohe. When the Battle of Sigio City was over, they were still trying to destroy ship number 2. After the battle was over, he had a general understanding of the situation, and was immediately sent to Zhugang to find Luan, and he didn't come back until now. So Wu Yusen didn't know what happened to Lin Fan at all. Instead, he searched on the internet, and found some information that frightened him. It's not that he didn't think about asking Song Ren, but the two of them belonged to different organizations, and the situation in Sigio City was involved, so there would be a difference in confidentiality levels. He might not be able to ask Song Ren about the situation, and it would be easy to cause trouble. Therefore, Wang Fengfeng, who was in the same organization as him, naturally became the best candidate for questioning. In addition, Wang Fengfeng and Wu Yusen were already familiar with each other. If the situation allowed, he might get more information from Wang Fengfeng. So he had been looking for an opportunity to ask Wang Fengfeng first. He had waited until now. Wang Fengfeng pursed his lips, summarized the general situation, and then said, after she came out of the subway, she seemed like a different person. I was still worried about her condition at the time, but after coming back, I felt that there seemed to be no obvious problems. How could she not? Wu Yusen complained in his heart. Lin Fan became sharper, like a sword out of its sheath. There is a difference in momentum between people who have seen blood and those who have not seen it, but this difference can only be seen by them, the insiders. Wu Yusen didn't believe that the timid Lin Fan had no ripples in his heart after such a change. Can I see the video in the subway? Wu Yusen asked. It is said that the video in the subway cannot be used, but the Xinglan system will record the dynamics of Xingqian from the first person perspective. As long as the eyepiece on Lin Fan's head is not broken, Xinglan will continue to record and transmit. Wang Fengfeng spread his hands and said helplessly, I can't see it. How could it be? Wu Yusen frowned. Isn't the war information fully disclosed to the Special Affairs Office? Although I'm not a direct combatant, I should be able to see it, right? Wang Fengfeng sighed. After the general control of Sigio City took over Xinglan, the authority was transferred from us. In the Special Affairs Office, it was the people in our information room who watched the live broadcast, but when I went to find it afterwards, I found that only the video in the subway was encrypted, so you can't see it. Wu Yusen frowned. Why is it like this? I don't know. Wang Fengfeng shook his head. Maybe it's too bloody and not suitable for ordinary people to watch. The part under the subway station was indeed bloody. When Lin Fan just went down, several people in their information room couldn't help vomiting at the scene. The Special Affairs Office usually deals with non-scientific events. They have seen a lot of weird things, but when have they seen such a large-scale massacre? Which normal person can stand it? Wang Fengfeng's head is full of corpses and blood when he thinks of that incident. He pinched the bridge of his nose. If you want to see it, you probably have to find the director. But I think you'd better not see it. It's not a pleasant scene. I know. You go and do your work first. Wu Yusen patted his shoulder and said goodbye to him. Wang Fengfeng looked at his back and put his raised hand down again. Forget it. Even if he knows everything, he will definitely not be relieved if he doesn't see it with his own eyes. Don't do this useless work yourself. Just go back to work. Wu Yusen walked out and called Jin Sichen not far away. As soon as the call was connected, he asked directly, do you know what happened to Lin Fan in the subway? Yes. Jin Sichen replied neatly, I have already found Song Ren to understand the situation. Lin Fan's mentality is still good at the moment. I don't plan to intervene. Lin Fan's heart has been rebuilt. Too much active assistance is like holding a child's hand all the time, and it will not be of much benefit to her independent growth. Jin Sichen was also very worried when he saw the real-time picture at the female clown's side, but because he couldn't leave, he contacted Song Ren specifically and asked him to pay attention to Lin Fan's mental state. The feedback Song Ren gave him was unexpectedly good. So Lin Fan has actually grown to a very good level, but she doesn't know it yet. Jin Sichen knew that she couldn't completely overcome it by herself. When he returned, he would definitely have to counsel Lin Fan. But because Lin Fan's emotions changed well, this matter was not urgent for the time being. After getting Jin Sichen's affirmative answer, Wu Yusen's worries were relieved a lot. He asked Jin Sichen if there was a video. Jin Sichen looked at the ugly woman with a gloomy face and decided not to make trouble for herself. She told him regretfully that she couldn't help him. After Wu Yusen hung up the phone, he closed his eyes and leaned against the wall in silence for a long time. In fact, based on Wang Fengfeng's description, he could probably imagine what happened. The scene must have been quite tragic, and the reason for locking it was probably too bloody and not suitable for ordinary people to watch. But even though he guessed everything, he still wanted to confirm with his own eyes what the situation was like at the time. Wu Yusen breathed a sigh of relief and decided to wait for the director to find him next time he was on break. Now, he thought about it and decided to go to Zaohe first to see how his card was restored. In the main control room, the armament director was online and he made a new discovery. There is a hole mounted structure at the bottom of the launcher. He pointed the camera at the bottom of a launcher that was almost not damaged and said to everyone, this thing is smooth all over and there is not even a crack. Except for the 3 claws that grip the ground, this hole is the most special. He showed several launchers in a row, and sure enough, there was a hole-shaped structure at the bottom. I suspect there is some special channel or transmission function in it. I will ask Xingqian to check it on the spot, provided it is not damaged yet. The ones delivered to him were almost disassembled, and even if he saw a hole, he didn't know if it was really possible. The main control immediately contacted Xingqian. Lin Fan was shocked when he heard it. Did she overlook something? Dad Wu was worried. What do you think the hole at the bottom is for? Chapter 562 Grows Layout. When Lin Fan destroyed these iron lumps, she had also taken a closer look. She knew that the 3 feet on the bottom of this thing had 3 claws digging into the ground, holding on firmly. For logistical convenience, she even dug out the place where the claws were deeply buried, but the bottom, she really hadn't paid attention to it. After Lin Fan arrived at the next point, the first thing she did after landing was to turn the communicator upside down. There was indeed a round hole at the bottom of the iron lump that was tilted to the side. The pointed cone structure was being retracted, and Lin Fan's shot was stuck. "Is it like this over there?" she asked. The person in the main control enlarged the picture and synchronized it to the person in charge of the armament. The other party quickly sent feedback. "It's true." The person in charge of the armament looked very happy. "All the ones I received here are closed, so I guessed that the ones that were not destroyed are in a different state." "It's true. What does this mean?" Lin Fan asked without understanding. "If, as I guessed, this is a transmission port." Before the other party finished speaking, Lin Fan immediately looked at the ground, where the transmitter was originally located. A round hole was left on the hard rock. Lin Fan frowned, twisted his hand, and split the spear apart. It was a combined spear just now, but now it has become 2 long swords. The upper half was held in Lin Fan's hand, and the lower half was still stuck on the launcher with a hole. The idea of detachable and assembled weapons like Xingqian is very good. The head of the armament saw it, and his eyes lit up. Lin Fan held the sword in one hand and pressed the eye on the rock. After digging nearly 5 meters deep, it was confirmed that the hole was just a hole in the surface of the ground, and nothing was really dropped underground. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the person in charge of the infrastructure of Sigio City patted his chest. It was a false alarm. If this thing really buried something underground, we would be in a more difficult situation. There are a lot of launchers, and it will take a long time for the 2 mechas to destroy them. If they bury something underground again, it's not as easy to lure as those spider silks. "Can the ugly woman confirm it?" asked the general. The ugly woman was watching next to the tree underground. If there was another invasion underground, she would undoubtedly be the first to know. ZHU Kunjin quickly contacted Jin Sichin. 10 minutes later, when Lin Fan destroyed the next transmitter, they replied that they had found no abnormalities underground. Lin Fan overturned another dozen transmitters, some in the woods, some on high ground, and some by the river. He found that without exception, they all had a shallow hole drilled downwards, and expressed his doubts. What is the purpose of drilling holes? It can't be to dig the ground more firmly, right? Yes. What is the purpose of drilling holes? The people in front of the screen couldn't figure it out. We checked the inside of the transmitter, and it doesn't have the material to transmit outwards. The person in charge of the armaments reported again. In other words, even if their guess is true, this hole has the function of transmission, but the medium is not built into the transmitter itself. Did they guess wrong? This hole has nothing to do with transmission? Is it really just to increase the firmness of the grip? In the information room of the Special Affairs Office, everyone was also talking about it. Spider silk. Wang Fengfeng yelled and slammed the table. Have you ever thought about the purpose of those spider silks? I know, isn't it used to absorb the energy of the world tree? The person next to him replied. Yeah, hasn't it been destroyed by Xingqian? Why are you suddenly talking about this? The person who spoke was confused, but his index finger was still flying, and he quickly called up the relevant pictures. Wang Fengfeng switched to the suburbs of Hua province, and enlarged the picture of the moment when the spider silk bundle was dragged out from the ground by Lin Fan, pointing at it and asking everyone. Have you ever thought about it? If the spider silk is not destroyed, it absorbs a lot of energy underground. Then what? Then, everyone looked at each other, as if they vaguely understood what Wang Fengfeng meant. The function of spider silk is to absorb energy, and after the energy is absorbed, it must be recycled into something. Because the spider silk was cleared before, they thought that the wave of attack had ended. Although it was strange that the spider monster would release another wave of spider silk before dying, it was an alien, and the moves were weird, so it didn't seem too strange. Later, Xingqian wiped them out in one fell swoop, so he didn't think about it further. If these spider silks successfully absorbed energy, how would they send it back? You mean, these are not only transmitters, but also energy transfer devices? Someone asked with narrowed eyes. It makes sense. The person next to him replied, with such dense distribution, no matter where the spider silk swims, there is a base, and it can be connected to the bottom of the transmitter nearby. Spider silk docking transmitter? Someone frowned. How does it locate? That's unknown, but pigeons have GPS systems, so it's not surprising that this alien thing has one, right? Wang Fengfeng shrugged. I'm just thinking divergently. It's not certain whether it's true or not. Even if spider silk can locate, can they drill everywhere? It's okay for low hardness ground, but if they encounter a high hill like granite, can they get up? Someone else raised a question. Since it can go down, it should be able to come up. Wang Fengfeng replied, shaking his legs. Hey, don't say anything. Someone brought up the image of the corpse of the spider monster in Hua province. Look, this monster had spit out silk before it died. The needle puncture on its but is very similar to the one on the bottom of the launcher. The image was enlarged again and again and compared with the launcher. Everyone came closer to take a closer look. It can't be said to be exactly the same, but the difference is not much. Theoretically, the hole made by the spiders, but piercing the ground will not be much deeper than the launcher. Zhu Kunjin rubbed his chin and said slowly, if this is true, then the penetration power of spider silk should not be weak. Everyone nodded, basically agreeing with this point of view. The information was quickly fed back to the main control, causing an uproar. What? Was the last attack actually a preparation for this one? Gro had carried out 3 attacks in total. The 3 attacks from each country were counted as one, because the time interval was close. 1 attack in Hua province. Now it is the 3rd time. Because the time interval and method of each attack were different, they were all regarded as separate attacks. Until now, they began to associate the 2nd and 3rd times together. So was there a hidden hand in the 1st time? Are those insects so smart? It's not that they don't know how powerful Gro is. To be able to fly such a spaceship, the aliens can't be that stupid. But maybe because the creatures it sent in the previous times were all insects, people unknowingly miscalculated their intelligence. On the one hand, they know that the aliens on Gro are powerful, but on the other hand, they don't seem that powerful. When did they start to have such contradictory contempt? They were obviously worried about the sudden attack before. So, was this the purpose of the first wave of attacks? To let them win, and invisibly despise the other side? They underestimated the enemy. Even the chief was speechless for a long time. He clenched his fists, and asked the technicians with a very bad face, to replay the previous battle situation on 2 screens. They need to check if there is anything that has been overlooked. Now, it should still be in time. Didn't expect it? Didn't expect it. My brainstem is empty. Chapter 563 Different Opinions. I have a question. Wu Yusen had nothing to do after seeing Zhao, so he strolled into the information room to watch. Spider silk absorbed the energy of the world tree before, right? Seeing that everyone turned to look at him, he said again, but how did Gro know that we have the world tree? Everyone was stunned. The world tree is the top secret of country H. Even if the AI database was leaked before, there would be no information about the world tree in it. Not to mention the world tree, all their confidential information will not appear in the AI database. These technicians in the information room still have this confidence. Will it have any sense of energy? Someone said tentatively, like there is some instrument that can detect high energy. You mean it used a large X-ray like device to take a perspective of Langsing, and it can clearly see where the energy is? Yes. If it can see through the energy directly, then why does it need to receive the AI database before attacking? Could it be that it wants to understand our culture and talk to us about poetry and life philosophy? Wang Fengfeng asked. Yes, if it can see through the energy, wouldn't it just start from the spider monster? Everyone was thinking. No one had any doubts about Gro's purpose. It was nothing more than plunder. Originally, they thought it wanted to occupy Langsing and turn it into its planet or colony. After the spider silk appeared, they thought Gro's goal was energy. But whether it was land or energy, in essence, they were both resources. If they had planned to invade from the beginning, there would be no need to waste the first wave of troops. In addition to testing Lang Xing's strength, the attack gradually intensified, and they didn't seem to find any other possibilities. But if they could directly see through the underground world tree, wouldn't it be better for Gro to directly drop spiders into the uninhabited mountains and forests? Putting aside the two accidents of Xingqian and Apollo, according to the normal level of Lang Xing, when they arrived, they had no ability to stop it. Even if the two mechas rushed over, the spider silk that entered the ground would definitely be more than that of Hua province. Or throw it directly above the ugly woman's cave, the source of the world tree. Throw a bunch of spiders densely, and there will always be one or two that will succeed. Gro won't think of it. Impossible. If they don't have this brain, the launch of the transmitter in the next step will not be connected. In the gap of scientific and technological information, the Lang Xing people don't understand what Gro is doing at all, and can only guess. Now, it is known that Gro's technology is advanced. I don't say how advanced his wisdom is, but at least he can make an interlocking layout, and the target of attack has been upgraded again and again. So if the X-ray hypothesis is true, then other attacks seem wrong. Are we going in the wrong direction? Someone spoke. Everyone looked at him, and the other party slowly said, the spider silk has been destroyed. Doesn't Gro know it at all? His large-scale launch of transmitters, could it be that it has nothing to do with spider silk and energy? Yes, the spider silk has been destroyed by the stars, and the ugly woman has personally verified it, so it can't be wrong. In this case, the launch of the signal device is meaningless. Is it really just to establish a network? No. John Woo shook his head. There should be a connection between Gro and the spacecraft, but those bugs may not be able to contact each other. The fly people have a layer of armor on their bodies. As humanoid insects, I believe they can communicate with the spacecraft, but I believe those insects can unilaterally issue commands to control. But as for feedback, John Woo shook his head and said, let's not talk about whether the insects can feedback so that the spacecraft or Gro can receive it. Even if they can, I don't think spider silk has that function. In the control room, everyone was also discussing this issue. Did Gro know that the spider silk was completely destroyed? Most people concluded that they didn't know, because spider silk is a quasi-organism, said the biologist. Although it is a mutated living organism, it is still an organism. Organisms themselves have no way to communicate signals with mechanical bodies. Please explain in detail. The general manager said politely. Is that so? Let me give you a rough example. For example, Xingqian. The biologist thought for a moment and said, she is a mecha body, but as you said, it is a biological armor, which can basically be classified as an organism. And our equipment is a mechanical body, and communication with each other requires mechanical equipment with similar frequency bands and signals. If Xingqian does not have the Xinglan system, her signal cannot be transmitted to us. What she said can only be transmitted within a certain range, not like it is now. Of course, this is my understanding, and it may not be true, but in my opinion, spider silk should be similar. It devours energy as an instinctive reaction, and it is not even like a spider monster, which is controlled by commands. So I guess they can't contact Gro directly. Gro, probably too confident in his own strength, does not think we can successfully get rid of these spider silks. According to the proportion of spider monsters and the evolution speed of spider silk entering the underground, as long as a little bit is not cleared, then its release of energy collection signal devices this time is meaningful. Everyone nodded silently, thinking that this speculation is very reasonable. But can't Gro see it? Someone else asked. Our space telescopes can see the situation on the ground. Gro can't be worse than us, right? The images transmitted from the space telescope, except for the details, can basically determine what the facts are. So if nothing unexpected happens, it should be able to see the battle situation in Hua province. You forgot that Xingqian finally dealt with the last spider silk in the dense forest. Someone said, if it weren't for Xingqian's perspective, we wouldn't be able to see it through the telescope either. The original intention of choosing a dense forest was to conceal its presence and prevent it from being discovered by Country P unexpectedly. There would be such a pleasant surprise now. So Gro thinks there must be spider silk underground? The person in charge nodded and said, "That's right. In this case, it would be reasonable for it to continue to launch instead of stopping while the launcher is cleared. I originally thought it was a set procedure, but now it seems that it may be gambling on the chance of not being discovered. There is probably no limit to the energy that the spider silk can absorb, but fortunately it was cleared in time. The location of the transmitter's mark is automatically captured by the sky eye, but it is not 100% captured, and some of the missed places are also calculated according to the interval law. So even if all the transmitters on the map are cleared, they dare not confirm that all the transmitters on Langsing have been cleared. But fortunately, the spider silk is really clean, so even if there are still a few transmitters left, it should not cause much trouble. They have already located the fixed frequency of these transmitters, and if there are more in the future, it is a matter of letting the Mecha make another trip. So the question is back, does it really know that we have the world tree? But, if it is not going for the world tree, what is the purpose of burying the spider silk? Everyone talked about it, but they could not come to a conclusion. There was another voice in the strategy room of Country P. What exactly is Grow's motive? Has anyone guessed? Chapter 564 Geocentric Energy. It's geocentric energy. After Country H said spider silk can absorb energy, Country P didn't doubt the origin of this statement. It must be Xinxing who said it. Could it be anyone else? Ovi also asked Antonio specifically, and he said he didn't feel anything. So Ovi's desire for Xinxing deepened. In short, after some of the news was synchronized, Country P also launched a heated discussion. They didn't know the existence of the world tree, so they naturally wouldn't directly substitute this option, but instead had a broader idea. Geocentric resources? Antonio narrowed his eyes. Yes, geocentric resources. Spider silk is so active in diving into the ground. If it does have the function of absorbing energy as Party H said, then the largest energy underground is not geocentric energy. The reason why people on Langsing can live happily is because of the abundance of various energy sources. Water, electricity, coal, wind power, and solar power. Anyway, over the years, many resources have been developed. All of them are for the purpose of making life more convenient and beautiful. But most people don't know that energy is not just the oil and natural gas that we see every day. There are also many types of classifications. Electricity, cooking gas, gasoline, kerosene, etc., which are most easily accessible to us in daily life, are all processed high-efficiency energy sources that can be used directly in life. Going up one level, we are not familiar with them in daily life, but we all know them, such as coal, oil, natural gas, nuclear energy, hydrogen energy, etc. These are far away from our lives and need to be processed before they can become the high-efficiency energy we use in daily life, so they belong to indirect energy. Going up one level, there are direct energy sources. After being absorbed and processed, they become the indirect energy just mentioned. For example, photovoltaic power generation, solar thermal power generation, geothermal energy, wind energy, ocean energy, nuclear materials. Don't forget, there are also the most daily water resources. Of course, there are also unknown ones, such as biomass energy, hot dry rock, mantle energy, ocean hydrothermal fluid, hydraulic potential energy, light energy, silicon energy, etc. The magma under the shuttle of the ugly woman before is also a direct energy source. These energy sources are all non-renewable resources. However, except for water, ordinary people cannot touch other energy sources. And the source of all this is solar energy, geocentric energy, and zero-point energy. As we all know, solar energy comes from the distant sun, traveling a long distance of 149,600,000 kilometers to reach the Earth. The way sunlight shines on the surface is its transmission method. After reaching Langsing, almost half of the energy will be absorbed by the surface, 1/5 will be absorbed by the atmosphere, and the rest will be scattered or reflected by the surface and atmosphere. Although solar energy has light and heat, what we usually say is the light energy converted from it in the form of radiation. The center of the Earth is the core of the planet Langsing. It is estimated that its highest temperature can reach 6,000 degrees Celsius, which is much higher than the surface temperature of the sun. It passes through the core, mantle, and crust to reach the surface, and travels an average of 6372 kilometers. The heat energy of the center of the earth is transmitted to the surface layer by layer, so langsing can provide continuous heat energy for humans on the surface for a long time. All plants absorb energy from the soil through their roots, buried deep in the ground, that is, heat energy. Then they absorb solar energy through photosynthesis of leaves. In this way, that is unique to plants, two different energies are converted into biomass energy. These biomass can then undergo billions of years of evolution and form coal, oil, natural gas, etc. Humans and animals are the same, absorbing light energy and heat energy to survive. Therefore, it is no exaggeration to say that the reason why langsing can thrive is inseparable from the light of the sun and the heat of the Earth's core. As for another major energy source, zero-point energy, it is not involved here for the time being, so let's put it aside for now. According to scientific estimates, the energy of the Earth's core is about 190,000 times higher than the energy of the sun per square meter per year. Such a huge multiple is enough to show that the energy of the Earth's core is one of the important energy sources for the survival of langsing. Once the energy of the Earth's core is taken away by aliens, let alone whether the planet itself can continue to exist, even if it can, the creatures on the ground are estimated to have no way to survive. Langsing has experienced more than 20 mass destruction events. Among various speculations, the main ones are natural disasters such as volcanic eruptions, sudden drops in temperature or sudden rises or drops in sea levels, earthquakes, lack of oxygen, etc. But no matter how severe the disaster is, the Earth's core of langsing is constantly burning, fissioning, and providing energy. If Gross sets his sights on the energy in the Earth's core, it would be much worse than if he were to occupy langsing. Because once there is no energy output from the Earth's core, the movement of the Earth's crust will not only stop, but the magnetic field of langsing formed by the high temperature of the Earth's core will also cease to exist. The magnetic field can not only point us in the direction, but more importantly, it can block harmful cosmic rays. The magnetic field is a basic and necessary condition for the birth of life on a planet, at least for carbon-based organisms. If Grow really goes for the energy in the Earth's core, langsing will inevitably become a dead star. After everyone in Country P understood, they were stunned on the spot. On the screen, only Xingqian and Apollo were still working hard. But if the speculation is true, no matter how powerful they are, what's the use? Grow's huge hull is still hanging in space, and the two mechas are very small compared to it, although they have means beyond langsing. But two fists are no match for four hands after all. If Grow really has the ability to plunder the energy in the Earth's core, they are afraid that they will not be able to resist it. At this moment, everyone's heart is filled with despair. They didn't even understand how it suddenly became like this. Just a few days ago, they were drinking red wine, cutting steaks, and enjoying the treatment of top civil servants. How could it become such a situation in the blink of an eye? If they were still immersed in the fruits of victory brought by Apollo and Xingqian before, and felt that aliens were nothing special, then now, they are more confused and fearful, and they really feel the threat of alien technology. No matter how powerful the mechas are, their abilities are limited. And even if they fight hard and reduce losses, the damage still exists. Just like Wu province, so many people died in the last attack. Although it is much better than being annihilated, there is still damage. They are not mechas, they don't have a hard shell and powerful means. Who can guarantee that the next person to die is not themselves? In the strategic room of Country P, the overall atmosphere became depressed. Even OV clenched the armrests and felt the thorniness of the matter. The technological gap is an unbridgeable gap. The Battle of Langsing cannot be only pressed on Apollo and Xingqian. But if they are not wrong, and Grow really has that idea and is determined to do it, how many rounds of attacks can they withstand? I'll see if any of you can guess it. I'm dizzy from looking up information for this paragraph. I'm a poor student. I didn't even take the college entrance examination seriously. Why do I want to write science fiction? Crying yesterday, there was finally a long-awaited comment asking if my description could be more concise. I saw it and tried to adjust it. If you think it's not good, Please tell me otherwise. If I see that you don't say anything, I will think that you write well, and the more you write, the happier you will be, and you may not know where you are. You are all the guiding lights on my road to progress. I love you. Heart. Chapter 565 Grow's Plan. When the news reached Country H, everyone realized that they were blinded by their own bias. So Grow didn't come for the energy of the world tree. Is this all just a coincidence? Those who guessed wrong were stunned. If they were going for the energy of the Earth's core, then of course there would be no such thing as seeing through laxing. There must be data on the study of the Earth's core in the AI database, and Grow probably received and understood it. The first wave of attacks may be a real examination of a tentative nature. Experiencing the ecological environment of laxing up close. If they can conquer it violently, that would be the best. Setting up a base on laxing to obtain energy is definitely much more convenient than the current long-distance transmission method. But the first wave of attempts, 3 consecutive times, did not work very well, and Grow lost 3 advanced ships and a lot of insect soldiers. According to the current statistics, there are about 40,000 to 50,000 insects dispatched by the 3 cities. Don't underestimate this number. In ancient TV dramas, you can always see scenes of hundreds of thousands of troops supporting the battle when 2 countries are fighting. It looks very majestic, but it is actually an exaggeration. In ancient times, technology and economy were not that developed. In the early years, a small country might be similar to a county town today. Even though it was later unified into the Great H ancient country, due to the limitation of productivity, the survival rate and life expectancy of the population were not high. Therefore, it was impossible to have such a large-scale war scene. Even if it were today, when 2 armies confronted each other, hundreds of thousands of troops on one side would be very scary. But how many G families could afford such troops? There were more invisible wars such as technological war, economic war, and public opinion war. Therefore, as the first wave of advanced tests, the scale of 40,000 to 50,000 insect armies could be mobilized. Coupled with the special performance of the Zerg, it is not an exaggeration to say that it can crush the fragile Langsing people. What the Langsing people didn't know was that they intervened too late, and the AI database that Grow accepted was complete. Since it chose Sigiu City as the first invasion point, it wanted to take advantage of its developed economy and large population to directly take over Sigiu City. Whether it was intimidating the locals or directly using the convenient resources of the capital of Sigiu City, it was a sure win for it. Unexpectedly, the description of laxing technology in the AI database was not complete. The appearance of the Mecha changed the situation, but when Lin Fan had not yet taken ruthless action, this advantage was not particularly obvious. Grow watched for a long time. Although those mechas could contain the insect army, the insects were numerous after all. Just a few people jumping back and forth could not save the collapse of the building. In addition, after a long battle, no more mechas joined in. Combined with the known information, Grow guessed that there were only so many mechas on Langsing, so he sent ship number 2 to Gao. Unexpectedly, the mechas were gone, but an unexpected situation occurred. When the light of superpowers flickered and danced in the night sky of Gao, everyone on Grow couldn't believe it. This is not. How could they appear here? On the Grow, everyone turned back to read the AI database information they received in disbelief, but there was nothing. They couldn't help but doubt the authenticity of the information in front of them. Although they didn't know what was going on, if this group of people were still here, their plan would definitely fail. But they had spent so much energy and finally reached the gates of the city, and it would be a pity to just give up. It would be a pity. According to their observations, the technological development level of this planet is very low. How could there be higher level means that are completely inconsistent with its own development? Grow couldn't figure it out, but he hesitated. But soon, they found that those scary resistance means didn't seem to be as strong as they remembered. Instead, they were like paper tigers that frightened people. So, there might not be anything they feared on this little broken planet. Or, even if there is, it is only rare in number, or at a level of inferior ability. Grow gave up the idea of retreating, and continued to wait and see. Sure enough, the trick that made them feel apprehensive disappeared soon. Although the creatures that appeared again were strong, they were not strong enough to make Grow retreat. At this time, Xingqian exerted his strength, which made Grow unhappy. The first point is probably useless, but the second one. It's okay to keep it and try it. This small broken planet looks inconspicuous. How come there are so many unexpected things? After discussion, Grow's upper management decided to send out a third ship to continue the test. These unexpected high-level combat capabilities are seriously inconsistent with the development level of Langsing. In Grow's eyes, there was a strange and contradictory shock. They spent a lot of energy to cross the interstellar, and they jumped once to reach Langsing as soon as possible. If they just left like this, they would lose everything. The third test came fiercely. When everyone was caught off guard, Grow looked at the collapsed city and finally smiled. This is the expected scene. 3 attack points of similar levels, 2 of them have heresy, and 1 is successful. Can this ratio be increased? Just when Grow was about to send another ship to attack, Apollo appeared. His appearance overturned Grow's previous conclusion. Why is there a Mecha? Grow didn't quite know why the Mecha appeared so late, but the appearance of the new Mecha slowed down their next plan. After waiting and watching, when they found that no new mechas came to help, the order to send the 4th ship was about to be issued, but a person who made them afraid appeared. Grow was so scared that he dared not move anymore and hurriedly recalled. Of course, it didn't work. Because of the appearance of this special person, there was a dispute among Grow's upper echelons. One side felt that, since the threat appeared, they might as well avoid it. If they lost this time, they would lose. If there were more such people on this weird little broken planet, they would be in trouble. They were exploring the interstellar and entering this galaxy for the sake of seeking good and development, not for seeking death. The other side felt that the result of the test was too one-sided. Even if there were forces on Langsing that made them afraid, according to the current performance, only a few were exposed, and most of them were limited in ability and time. Although it would pose a threat, the result might not be their loss. In addition to that strange sense of contradiction, this planet might have secrets that they didn't know. This was only the first exploration, and although the result was not good, it was not a serious blow. Instead, they just avoid trouble. How can they seek innovation and development? The two groups quarreled fiercely, and no one could easily convince the other. It was not until the next day that they came up with a compromise plan. Change your place and try again. Langsing obviously does not have the ability to fly out of space to fight them, and they still have the upper hand. And their main purpose is energy. If they can transfer the energy without alarming those forces that make them wary, even if it is a supplement, it is better than leaving now. As for the planet, if they don't want it, then don't want it. If they can take the energy away, what's the point of this one? So, there was the Battle of Hua Province. This is an explanation from the perspective of God. Maybe it was not written clearly before, and many people don't understand what's going on. Please give an official explanation. I didn't plan to write from Grow's perspective, but after thinking about it, I still want to explain it clearly. Hahaha. Chapter 566 Her Growth. While others were in a gloomy mood, Lin Fan was still diligently destroying the transmitters. 79% of the area of Langsing is covered by the ocean, so after the cleanup process was already halfway through, she had been wandering in the sea. The conditions on the seabed are somewhat similar to those on land, with high slopes and low valleys, coral vegetation, and a large number of fish. During the cleanup process, Lin Fan saw all kinds of unnamed animals and plants, and deeply felt the magnificence and magic of the seabed. Of course, not all processes were pleasant. Some transmitters fell into the deep sea trench. When Lin Fan was looking for the location, she encountered a deep sea monster again. This time, she did not run away. While she was frightened, she had already grasped her double swords in her hands. The sea monster was very huge, and it was hard to tell what kind of monster it was. It was all white, and rushed over like a wall. After being disgusted by the bugs recently, Lin Fan's tolerance for local monsters has reached a new high. Although this monster looked like a large mass of swollen white fungus, compared to those alien insects, Lin Fan still felt that the local monster was much more friendly and cute. She might really have a serious illness, and she actually thought of the monster as cute. Lin Fan rushed towards the sea monster that was flapping its skirt, and her two swords were flying. She cut off pieces of white tissue, and a light pink liquid flowed out. The sea monster looked huge, but it actually had no special attack power. That is, it followed the biological law of big fish eating small fish, which made it invincible in the deep sea. But in fact, when encountering a sea monster bigger than it, or a special case like Lin Fan, it had no resistance at all. Lin Fan killed the white fungus monster without much effort, which was easier than destroying a launcher. TSK. Lin Fan picked up the slippery corpse, and there was no special emotion in his heart. She suddenly thought of the scene when she was chased by a big hairtail and fled in a panic. Those panic details suddenly emerged in her mind, as if it had just happened. If she had the courage and calmness she has now, I guess it wouldn't be difficult to deal with the big hairtail, right? Lin Fan lowered her head and smiled. Zhu Kunjin said that she was growing fast, but she always thought that he was just being polite and didn't take it seriously. Now, after comparing, she realized that her growth might be faster than she thought. From the past, she instinctively feared and retreated when she encountered a crisis, to now, she seemed to have really become bolder and dared to charge. Is she, the Minister Lin, really the real deal? Lin Fan was happy with her progress, hummed a few random tunes, and happily went to destroy her original goal. During this ascent, she held the launcher with one hand and rolled up the body of the sea monster with her long gun. After throwing both things onto the deck of the accompanying ship on the sea, there was no open space on the empty deck. Is this the sea monster we encountered down there? The captain had received a notice from the main control long ago and knew that Xingchen had killed a big guy down there, so he ran out to see the novelty. Xingchen had no place to stand, so he could only answer while floating in the air. That's it. I don't know what it is. It was supposed to be a little bigger, but I cut it down to this. The sea monster spread out on the deck, reflected a smooth texture under the light. Is this a squid? The captain lowered his head and looked at the skin of the sea monster in front of him, feeling familiar. Squid? Lin Fan couldn't tell what a squid looked like. I thought it was a jellyfish. After all, it was originally wearing a skirt. The captain was unsure, so he simply stopped guessing. Then we'll return home first. This sea monster has to be handed over to a specialized agency. With the addition of a special item, the route must be adjusted, and they have to speed up. Okay, you guys go. I have to get busy too. Lin Fan didn't say much and dived directly into the sea. The captain straightened his hat and called out, "Let's go. Let's get busy too." Yes. Everyone answered in unison. Their voices were loud and spread far away on the sparkling sea. When everyone in the control room saw the sea monster, they all withdrew from their worries about Gromu. Seeing Xingchen easily defeat the enemy, he breathed a sigh of relief. "Cheer up," the general said in a deep voice. "The enemy will not be polite because of our depression. Yes, now they have no choice at all. There is no other way to go except to show the courage and perseverance to fight against Gro. Whether it is Langsing or the resources in the Earth's core, they will not give up. Instead of being afraid of this and that, it is better to be tough and fight it. Even if they risk their lives, they will not let Gro get what he wants. Besides, there is also the barrier." The ugly woman said that once the barrier is opened, it can defend against Gro's attack. As long as they hold on until then, they will be protected. Once there is time buffer, they can always come up with a good plan. How long will it take for the barrier to open? The general asked. It has only been 2 days since the spider silk was cleared. According to the previous conservative estimate, there should be 8 days left. 8 days. It would not feel long at other times, but Gro's attack has only been 5 days. Moreover, Gro's attack in the past 2 days is equivalent to 0, but the attack in the first 3 days is still fresh in my memory. They almost deployed all their strength to resist, but the result can only be described as a narrow victory. 8 days, 3 days more than the previous 5 days. They don't know how many tricks Gro has, but they think he won't let them have it too easy. The general looked at the few transmitter positions on the screen, and then looked at Gro, who was hanging high in the space without any movement, and felt strange. Jero's last wave of launches was almost destroyed by us. It can always receive the signal, even if it is damaged, right? But it doesn't have any tricks. Strange. Everyone felt that it was holding back a bad trick, but they were at a loss about what would happen next. Zhu Kunjin, The general called, "Doesn't the ugly woman know more about high-tech civilization? At least better than us. And the technology tree is in her hands, and there may be relevant information in it." ZHU Kunjin replied. "Then, can I ask the ugly woman, according to her understanding, what is a possibility that grows target is the resources in the center of the earth?" The general asked very carefully. In the previous connection, they could fully feel that the ugly woman was not a good-tempered person. Moreover, she is very powerful, holding the world tree in her hand, and in charge of the opening and closing of the planetary barrier. Even the head of a country can't help but feel like giving in. ZHU Kunjin pondered for a moment. "I'll try." After that, he immediately connected with Jin Sichin. After he finished explaining the matter in detail, he asked Jin Sichin to tell the ugly woman and put forward their needs. Jin Sichin agreed to convey it, but he couldn't guarantee that the ugly woman would answer them, and even if she succeeded, please be mentally prepared. After ZHU Kunjin conveyed Jin Sichin's words, everyone in the control room looked at each other in bewilderment. What preparation should they make? Soon, when the ugly woman's face appeared on the big screen, they knew. "How have you guys evolved over the years? Is your brain full of shit?" The ugly woman raised her chin and taunted without hesitation as soon as she appeared, and the damage range was very wide. The puzzled people finally knew what ZHU Kunjin asked them to prepare for. Prepare to accept the spur of the ugly woman. Someone said before that Lin Fan, was too timid when it came to the big hairtail. "I just wanted to show this process of growth. Who wouldn't panic when encountering this situation for the first time?" Lin Fan is an ordinary person in my writing, just like us, not a born hero. She would be afraid, would escape, and then in such a long experience, she slowly changed and grew up to become what she is now. We also grew up little by little from childhood and gradually became proficient in things that we were not proficient in, right? Lin Fan is you, me and her, we are the same. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567 The Ugly Woman's Rage. The ugly woman felt that she must have been unlucky for 18 lifetimes to have to protect such a group of idiots. If she wasn't afraid of not being able to face Nua, or if the world tree was already lush and leafy, and if she moved suddenly now, it would damage the tree, she really wanted to leave. Whoever wants to protect this mess can do it. It's not that she doesn't love her job, it's really these people. The ugly woman turned a bunch of dirty words in her stomach one by one, and she just didn't know what adjective could accurately describe it. Although she just woke up recently and didn't participate in the development of the entire social process before. But even if she was there, she would only assist in correcting the direction of science and technology and would not directly participate in their own development. Okay. For thousands of years, these idiots would fight back and forth, tossing back and forth for their selfish desires. They don't value science and technology, but they value imperial power. There were also several times when the development of science and technology had obviously improved, but it was suppressed, or even destroyed by these dead guys, and the technology regressed. When the ugly woman saw this record, she laughed out of anger. She was not there at the time. If she had been, she would have used her shoe soles to beat these idiots in the face. What's the point of changing hundreds of emperors? No matter how high he is, he has never used the flush toilet that ordinary people can enjoy now. Such low-tech high-level centralization is too limited. The ugly woman knows that social development will inevitably take time, but Langsing's progress has obviously been wasted in the back and forth. If it follows the normal trajectory, the current level of technology will not be so bad. This is also the reason why she was confused when she learned about the current situation when she just revived. She slept for thousands of years, but the actual development seemed to be shortened, and she only went less than half of the progress. But things have come to this. What can the ugly woman do? Just wait for them to develop slowly. Afraid that they are too slow, they secretly take advantage of various opportunities to leak some information from the world tree. looking at those people smugly snickering, thinking that they have cheated her of benefits. The ugly woman is too lazy to look. The ugly woman. She was supposed to be the guardian of Lansing. How could she not see the performance of these idiots? She just slept for too long and was out of touch with the current society. Not that her brain was broken. It was just that they had the same purpose and were too lazy to bother with these ants. But that was it. After these idiots got the information, they studied it in every possible way, but in the end they said that they could only understand 1/10 of it. The ugly woman really wanted to open the brains of these idiots to see what was inside. How could such a brain evolve in thousands of years? Exclamation mark. If possible, she really wanted to call Nua and ask if she could give up on these people. Later, it was Xiaojin who calmed her down. If the goddess Nua knew that you led Lansing back to the right path and reached the peak in this difficult situation, she would surely respect you more, right? When Jin Sichin saw that the ugly woman was about to go berserk, he untied his sunglasses without leaving a trace and at the same time launched a silent attack, using 2 prongs to successfully turn the ugly woman into a careerist, and took it as his responsibility to bring Lansing's development to a normal level. The goal was changed, but the ugly woman's temper became more irritable as time accumulated. Jin Sichin had to come over to comfort her from time to time, which was equivalent to emotional counseling for the ugly woman. Of course, it was also to watch from the side, to prevent the ugly woman from impulsively doing something that would be extremely harmful to them. Jin Sichin himself is a very powerful psychologist. His words, conversations, and behaviors, as long as he wants, can make people feel comfortable and convinced. After a long time of contact, the ugly woman likes him very much. He is beautiful, has good aesthetics, speaks smoothly, and is smart. Yes. Jin Sichin's high IQ is also a plus point for the ugly woman. She had seen too many stupid things, and she really didn't want any more stupid people to hang around in front of her. It was a blessing in disguise that she was liked by the ugly woman, but Jin Sichin knew the cruel nature of the ugly woman better, and he dared not slack off for a moment. In the past, he was also a big shot in the Special Affairs Office. He didn't do the work he didn't want to do, and no one forced him. It wasn't until he met Lin Fan that his talent was frustrated, which made him interested in Lin Fan as a person, and then he stayed with her in 800 for such a long time. The change in his relationship with Lin Fan was within his expectations, but it was completely different for the ugly woman. The ugly woman was a huge threat, the kind of existence that would take people's lives at any time, and Lansing would be affected. If she wanted, her ability to kill thousands of miles away was no worse than those aliens on Grow. Jin Sichin's attitude towards the ugly woman could not be the same as Lin Fan's, and they could become friends in the end. He had to follow her, praise her, teach her when she didn't understand, and guide her when she was in a bad mood. Once a crisis occurred, he had to resolve it immediately. Jin Sichin seemed to be able to do it well, but because of the identity of the ugly woman and her ability not controlled by rules, her random emotions, the work he was doing now required him to stay alert at all times, which could be said to be very stressful. If it were someone else, Jin Sichin would definitely not be willing to do it. Whoever wanted to come could come, but this was the ugly woman. If Jin Sichin didn't come, there would be no other suitable candidate. Jin Sichin knew how much preferential treatment he had received in the Special Affairs Office. When the nest was overturned, how could the eggs be intact? He took the difficult job as a matter of course, and he had been doing a good job. In places where people couldn't see him, Jin Sichin was really a great contributor to Land Crossing. With his eloquence, he persuaded the ugly woman to a position that was beneficial to Land Crossing. As for her bad temper, just take some scolding. At least the ugly woman didn't do it. If you want to enjoy the benefits, you have to pay a price, right? Anyway, the ugly woman wouldn't lose her temper with him, but for other people, he couldn't help. So when Zhu Kunjin told him the situation, he had already anticipated the follow-up. After the ugly woman finished blasting at the screen, he considerately and promptly brought her a glass of freshly squeezed watermelon juice. "My queen, please take a break. It's not worth it for you to get so angry. It's so harmful to your health." Jin Sichin's voice was very pleasant, soft, and low. It went into the ugly woman's ears and successfully calmed her down. She looked at the glass in her hand, and the cool and refreshing touch seemed to go straight to her heart along her fingertips. The irritable mood she felt just now subsided in an instant. Zyojin is still good, worrying about her health. Unlike these idiots. The ugly woman rolled her eyes at the people behind the screen without any concealment, and drank the watermelon juice in one breath. Gulp gulp. Comfortable. Jin Sichin took the cup quickly and retreated quietly, earning a smile of approval from the ugly woman. Such a good Zyojin, but unfortunately, there is only one. She turned her head and looked back at the screen. A group of old men were waiting in silence, looking really stupid. If it was just a simple backward development, it would be fine. With her help, the progress could always be caught up. But Grow suddenly appeared. Facing the attack of alien forces, the technological weapons that Langsing was proud of were actually invincible. If it weren't for the dead girl like Lin Fan and the descendants of the Son of God, how could they rely on them alone? Humph. The ugly woman leaned back on the chair and said unhappily, "Speak." The ugly woman has never been a person who is easy to talk to. The more she sees, the worse her temper becomes. Chapter 568 Scolding. The people sitting in the control room were all big shots. Facing the bad temper of the ugly woman, they actually let her scold them without saying a word. It was at this time that ZHU Kunjin stepped forward, stood in front of everyone, and took the storm for everyone. He said with a smile, "Madam, after our discussion, we speculated that Grow was coming for the geocentric energy, and it might be a coincidence that he came into contact with the world tree. But because of our lack of knowledge, we are not sure about the accuracy of this speculation, so I came to ask you for advice. In your opinion, are Grow's current actions aimed at the geocentric energy? How should we deal with it?" ZHU Kunjin was very humble and asked politely. But the ugly woman didn't give him any face at all, and directly replied, "I don't know." ZHU Kunjin kept his smile, and didn't care at all. He thought the ugly woman was talking in anger, and continued to smile. "Madam, do you know what I'm thinking?" the ugly woman suddenly asked. "I don't know," ZHU Kunjin replied. "So why do you think I know what Grow is planning? We are not even the same species." The ugly woman put her feet on the table and began to collapse. It makes sense. The people on the other side of the screen blinked, feeling that they had made a mistake again. Because the ugly woman was an ancient goddess who could open the global barrier, they unconsciously elevated her to an omniscient position. Now it seems that they were wrong. Besides, what's the point of you being entangled in its purpose? The ugly woman slid under the chair, and only her head was left on the screen. Isn't its purpose to attack you? Is it different for you to occupy the Earth's core resources, ocean resources, or simply occupy this planet? It seems there is really no difference. Everyone responded silently. We just want to. If we can know what it is targeting, we can make corresponding deployments. ZHU Kunjin struggled for a while. Corresponding deployments? What corresponding deployments can you make? What's the use? The ugly woman sneered. After she finished speaking, everyone had a heart attack. Although it was the truth, they were still very angry. What should they do? There are ways to deal with it. The ugly woman's next sentence lit up the light of hope for everyone. But you can't do it either. The ugly woman's words were like sharp swords, piercing everyone's heart. The ugly woman spoke too directly. Although it was not pleasing, it was all the truth. According to the normal development progress, you should be able to deal with Grow. But now, the ugly woman shrugged, touched her hair, and smoothed it across her chest. Who do you think is to blame? Everyone felt the passivity of being behind again, and could only listen to the lecture. Then your majesty, is there nothing we can do? ZHU Kunjin continued to ask with a flattering face. We also can't bear to do nothing, and let your majesty suffer alone. The ugly woman raised her eyelids, and didn't expose his false courtesy. Do what you should do, and don't drag your feet. Especially don't drag down the effective combat effectiveness. Do some investigation when necessary, finish up when necessary, and restrain the group of people below from running around. If you can't attack Grow directly, there is always something you can do. In fact, your current firepower weapons have a certain striking power. Although you can't suppress it absolutely, a certain degree of defense is completely possible. But you are too cautious and unable to exert your power, which has become a hindrance. Yes. We think that city construction is not easy, and there may be people who have not been cleared out inside. We want to preserve them as much as possible, so we will preserve them as much as possible. ZHU Kunjin explained sincerely. Don't think of having the best of both worlds anymore. Facing a strong enemy like Grow, it is impossible to win without paying a price. Casualties are certain, and urban construction is also certain. The ugly woman shook her head, thinking they were naive. It's not certain what tricks Grow will have, but I'm not optimistic. If Grow is really coming for the resources in the center of the earth as you guessed, it won't care about your life or death, but you are still hesitating to keep the ground buildings and dare not take action. Others have rushed to the door to kill your family, dig up your land, and rob your things. Are you still worried about whether your house can be kept? Is it unfair to say that you are stupid? Everyone felt a heavy blow in their hearts. Thanks to Xinjiang and the special office, the infrastructure of Sijiu City and Gaia was almost undamaged. Such a result strengthened their confidence in this speculative behavior. But in fact, Zhugang was half destroyed. Hua province was better, but because the buildings were not concentrated, the casualties were also very serious. They only saw Xinjiang and Apollo, and were too optimistic. With your current level, if you are not prepared to fight to the death, are you just waiting for those few people to rush in front? Or are you thinking about the barrier as a bottom? Everyone was scolded by the ugly woman, feeling a little ashamed, and dared not say a word. My barrier will take 7 days to unfold. Have you thought about how to spend these 7 days? The ugly woman flicked her nails lightly. Anyway, I have a way out. What about you? The ugly woman thought that, if the barrier could not be opened and Langsing fell, she would not be able to continue to hold on, and she would directly take the shuttle to the World Tree. Anyway, she is now in full physical strength, and it is still no problem for Zhao Quan to leave. At that time, she can take Zhao Jin with her. Maybe she can also take the dead girl with her. Let's talk about it later. I think I know why your development is still so slow after so many years. Based on your current attitude, it is not difficult to imagine. Optimism is not a bad thing, but excessive optimism will cause big trouble. These people obviously felt the threat of Grow, otherwise they would not come to her. But what can she do? If she could save it, she would save it. She also went all out and prepared to open the barrier. But if it didn't work, she couldn't live and die with this suffocating little star, and she wouldn't take the responsibility on herself. After all, everything on Langsing was just her job content. If she couldn't do it well, she couldn't do it well. She was calculated by Kuofu and didn't participate in the development of the entire world process. Soon after waking up, she was attacked by unknown alien forces. In this case, Noah would definitely understand that she left Langsing. She left the shuttle to prevent such extreme situations. Langsing is not the responsibility of Nuchao, but the responsibility of the Langsing people. After so many years, don't they remember the cruelty of the war? She couldn't understand the logic of Grow's behavior, but since it launched an attack, and it was still hanging in the sky, for the Langsing people, it was a situation of life and death. Looking at a group of silent old men, she didn't know what to say, and she was angry just looking at them. She got up and left directly, and the screen quickly went black. Wang Fengfeng hesitated. Am I the only one who heard 7 days? ZHU Kunjin had just said that there were still 8 days before the barrier was opened. It had only been a short while, and 1 day was missing. The people in the control room also reacted. Should we confirm it again? Who will confirm it? Everyone looked at me. I looked at you, and finally looked at ZHU Kunjin. ZHU Kunjin coughed dryly. Forget about the connection with the ugly woman. I'll ask Jin Sichin who is with her later. He should know about it, and it will be easier to talk to him. They are all big guys who would like to be scolded in the face, especially when they know that the ugly woman is in a bad mood. It's a good thing that the barrier time is shortened. As for the reason, forget it. They can't figure it out anyway, as long as they confirm the time. Ugly woman, who dares to say a word when I scold you? Chapter 569 Plan B. The scolding of the ugly woman was useful. The main control quickly adjusted the plan. They were not really stupid, but they were paralyzed by the successful counterattacks several times before, and were a little overly optimistic. Now they were scolded by the ugly woman, and their faces were not good, but this naked blame also directly tore open that layer of luck, and made them sober in time. Whether it was Xingqian, Apollo, or the Mecha warriors, they were all very rare forces with special powers. It might be okay to resist Gro's attack in a short time, but once the battle line was extended, and the time was prolonged, both sides would face insufficient energy. The ugly woman was right, they could not just pin their hopes on those powerful people. They still had a large number of soldiers, and if they gave it a try, they could also form a defense circle, just like what country E did. Their strength was originally at a disadvantage, and they still wanted to preserve the city's infrastructure, which could be said to be naive. Although it was a pity that the city was destroyed, it was obviously more infuriating than being tied up and restricted by the city and unable to launch firepower attacks, allowing Gro to wreak havoc. The economy can be developed again, the city can be rebuilt, and history can be recreated. As long as people are there, everything is possible. The chief quickly changed his strategic policy and had a heated discussion with the military. Sen Fangyuan glanced at Xingqian and Apollo, who were still working steadily on the screen, and quietly left the table to find the old man. The old man had been staying in his office, paying attention to the situation in the control room. The general strategic policy of each country was controlled by the chief, and the old man did not interfere lightly. However, the chief also showed absolute respect for the old man. Once it involved major decisions, he would always take the initiative to report to the old man, and he would only execute it if the old man did not object. This harmonious relationship of trust allowed the instructions from the control room to be executed quickly and orderly, without the bad habit of procrastination that the ugly woman said. Just after the ugly woman went offline, the old man suddenly sent him a text message asking him to come over. This was a unique situation in the past few days. Sen Fangyuan guessed that the ugly woman's words must have had some impact on the old man, and there were new ideas that needed him to implement. "Leader, I'm here." The old man in the room looked at ease, even calmer than the chief. "Sit down." He took off his reading glasses and put them aside, closed his eyes, and pinched the bridge of his nose, and his whole body showed a kind of fatigue that is unique to the elderly. The old man has not rested well these days. He is tense when he is fighting, and he is also tense when he is not fighting. As an old man over 60, the burden is indeed not small. Sen Fangyuan saw that the old man's teacup was empty, and he refilled him with hot water before sitting down. "Leader, you have to take care of yourself." "I know." The old man opened his eyes, and the tired look disappeared immediately, leaving only clarity in his eyes. "I called you here because there is an important matter for you to do. Please go ahead." Sen Fangyuan took out the tablet to record. "Is the shuttle channel of the female clown still normal?" the old man asked. After checking the information, Sen Fangyuan replied, "There is no record of damage at present. It should be normal." The old man nodded. "Prepare some supplies and send them into the shuttle." Sen Fangyuan paused with his pen and looked up at the old man in front of him. "Leader, it's just what you think. We have to prepare plan B." The old man smiled slightly, looking very kind. The words of the ugly woman not only woke up the general manager, but also the old man. If their struggle cannot succeed, do the Langsing people really have no way out? Yes. The ugly woman's way out can also be their way out. He probably studied the ugly woman's temperament. She is not very good, but not very evil either. There is a point that can be used, that is, she doesn't like to owe people anything. Jin Sichin also took advantage of this characteristic and treated the ugly woman very well. This is also one of the important reasons why the ugly woman likes him and treats him kindly, including Lin Fan. The two of them fought to death before, but later Lin Fan smiled and clung to her, gave her food and drink, and the ugly woman didn't do anything to her. While scolding her as a dead girl, he was thinking about her. To some extent, the ugly woman can be said to be a pure and true person. If she wants to get on the shuttle and leave, daily necessities are indispensable. Then, he would prepare all these for her. So much preparation, So much preparation that she felt she owed them a lot, so that they could take advantage of this opportunity and let the ugly woman take the people away with her. Yes, plan B is the evacuation plan for the survivors of Langsing. Sen Fangyuan paused for a moment, and then wrote quickly. Understood. There are enough supplies in the Sichuan province material warehouse. In addition, there are also sufficient supplies in several large warehouses around. I will transfer them together and arrange them later. Tell Cui Yan to let the 800 people go to deliver it. The old man added. Okay, I'll make a note. Let the same group of people who explored the shuttle before go to keep the shuttle secret. Sen Fangyuan said. The matter of the shuttle is not suitable for exposure, either in the past or in the future. In the past, it was to guard against external forces, and now it is to guard against everyone. Although the old man did not mention the evacuation of personnel, Sen Fangyuan knew very well that no matter how big the shuttle was, it could not accommodate the world's population. If it really came to the point of life and death, and the shuttle was exposed again, unrest would arise from within. At that time, although all lives are equal and people are equal, when it comes to the time for the survivors to evacuate, Sen Fangyuan knows without thinking that only high-end talents should be retained. In addition, the ugly woman's temper is uncertain, and he himself may not be able to get on that ship. Contact the heads of major research institutes. Their reserve emergency plans can be activated, and all the results that can be transferred will be sent to 800 for summary. The old man said again. Okay, I will contact all the confidentiality research institutes one by one to confirm that the work will be carried out as soon as possible. Sen Fangyuan continued to repeat. As for the list of personnel, the old man pondered for a long time, took a sip of hot tea, and then slowly said, you should screen a few more lists in the Eagle plan, and list them according to 10,000 people, 5,000 people, 1,000 people, 500 people, and 100 people. Screen the top talents in each industry evenly. Sen Fangyuan looked up and looked directly at the old man. Are you afraid that Nchao won't accept so many people? Yes, I'm sure Nchao will let people go, but I can't guarantee how many people will go. So, you have to make more preparations. Okay, I understand. Sen Fangyuan nodded. Do those people need to be gathered in advance? No, most of them were recruited by institutions, and they should be relatively concentrated now. If it comes to that step, just notify them 1 or 2 days in advance. Prevent information from leaking. The old man picked up a pen and started writing in his notebook. Okay, where is the list of other people? Sen Fangyuan asked again. What list of other people? There is no list. The old man shook his head and denied it. But, you and your wife are not on the list of young eagles, and your children are not on it either. Sen Fangyuan's heart thumped, and his face looked ugly. He didn't care whether he got on the ship or not, but he hoped that the old man and his family, who had worked hard for country H all his life, could leave. The old man smiled. As for me, I'm so old now, there's no need to fight for this opportunity. My wife will definitely stay with me, and my children are not gifted, so let's give it to the truly talented people. Leader, you. Sen Fangyuan's eyes were sore and his words were interrupted by the old man indifferently. As for me, I will definitely live, and I with country H. It's a two-hand plan, both are ready. It's so hot today, the room temperature is 33.8 degrees now. I haven't turned on the fan yet. I'll turn on the air conditioner before taking a shower tonight. It's the beginning of autumn, shouldn't it be cooler? 2 nights ago, I didn't even need to turn on the fan when I slept. North-south ventilation was enough. I thought it would rain a lot this summer, so it wouldn't be a big deal. Who would have thought that the summer that had been not hot would suddenly get hot at the end? How's the temperature over there, my dears? Is it still hot? Chapter 570 Controlled Satellite. Lin Fan had been working on the screws for 2 days in a row, and she was completely exhausted. At first, it took her more than 10 minutes to destroy a signal device, but in the end, she was so skilled that she could do it in just a few strokes. No electricity was needed, just a few bangs with a long gun. After breaking it, she no longer went up and down to deliver the goods every time, and took them all away with an iron chain, which was very efficient. This kind of low intensity repetitive work was obviously not something she had never done before, but after such a long time, she felt physically and mentally exhausted. It's hard to be a social animal. In comparison, the director of the Special Affairs Office has high pay and little work, which is simply a blessing from heaven. She must work hard and try to keep her current position and strive to continue to enjoy this high-level treatment after the situation calms down. After taking a shower, Wu Yusen helped her to wash her combat uniform, and she went to the cafeteria to find food by herself. As expected, Wang Fengfeng had already set the table for her. Lin Fan sat down, but her whole body seemed to be exhausted, and she didn't want to move at all. "Are you so tired?" Wang Fengfeng hurriedly walked behind her and massaged her shoulders. Although it takes a long time to destroy the signal device, it is not as difficult as the previous times. It shouldn't be so tiring. I can't explain it. I just feel like I don't want to move. Lin Fan was uncomfortable with his irregular gestures and shook her shoulders. "Forget it. You'd better stop massaging." Wang Fengfeng smiled and turned to face her. "My hands have never massaged anyone before. You should feel honored." "I'm honored," Lin Fan said perfunctorily without raising her head. "Any new gossip?" Wang Fengfeng was serious and told her what happened when she was away. Lin Fan almost had indigestion from eating. "Is it that serious?" She suddenly felt that she had no appetite. "No. I have to eat. I don't know how long I have to wait for the next time." "Eat, eat, eat." Lin Fan suppressed the confusion in his heart and continued to eat hard. Wu Yusen came over and saw Lin Fan digging for food like a pig without raising his head, as if he had been hungry for 8 lifetimes. He asked Wang Fengfeng in confusion, "What's wrong with her?" He put the drink next to Lin Fan to prevent her from choking. "I don't know." Wang Fengfeng shrugged. "Maybe she's hungry." Wu Yusen rolled his eyes at him unhappily. Lin Fan had no sense of hunger and no sense of taste, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 days. He should have thought of a better reason to fool him, so he made up something so casually. Lin Fan cleared all the food on the table before looking up and taking a breath. "When did you come?" She looked at Wu Yusen next to her in surprise. Wu Yusen smiled bitterly. "You are too focused. Do you want more?" Lin Fan thought for a while. "Yes, the more the better." Wu Yusen nodded and pulled Wang Fengfeng to get the food. Lin Fan consciously stacked the plates on the table and put them away at the plate collection area. Wipe the table and wait for the second wave of food to be fed. Seeing that Minister Lin wanted to eat, the kitchen chef hurriedly put his specialty dishes on the trays of Wu Yusen and the others. Soon, the two returned with a full load. "If you ask me, you have to eat with Lin Fan." Wang Fengfeng smiled and put down the trays one by one. "The dishes are absolutely the best." Wu Yusen smiled but said nothing, silently helping to set the dishes. Lin Fan took a bowl and started to eat again. Wu Yusen gently pressed her hand. "Don't be too nervous, just be calm." Lin Fan looked at him, holding the bowl and sighed softly. "Am I stupid?" Wu Yusen couldn't help but touch her head and looked at the tuft of hair on her head. "No, you are quite smart." Lin Fan pouted, knowing that she couldn't get any truth from Wu Yusen. "Forget it, just take it as a compliment and eat slower." "What day is this?" She ate and talked, feeling that the impatience was slowly disappearing. "Are you asking about the day of Gro's attack?" Wang Fengfeng also held a bowl and ate with her. "It's the 5th day, and the barrier will be opened in 8 days. Zhu Kunjin asked Jin Sichin. It was 8 days. The clown just slipped up at the time. Everyone was a little disappointed that there was not 1 day less, but there was nothing they could do. 8 days is 8 days. The main control even pulled out a countdown. The eye-catching big words touched everyone's nerves. 8 days. Lin Fan pouted. "I have never felt that time is so long. Gro's attack has been escalating. Although there has been no obvious attack in the past 2 days, its delivery was not completed until the morning. According to their speculation, it should still be waiting for the spider silk to arrive. Until now, it has not made any moves, probably because the receivers have not been completely destroyed by them. They are lucky. Gro may not have fully reacted, and the spider silk has been cleared. Now it is night, and time is passing by little. Nearly 2 days of peace gave her a premonition that the next wave of attacks will definitely not let them so easily. But what will it be? Lin Fan prayed to all the bodhisattvas, God, and Allah she knew in her heart, hoping that they would bless Gro's next wave of attacks to come later. The later the better. At least today will pass. Thinking about it, she stuffed 2 more bites into her mouth. She should finish eating quickly. Don't waste the food on the table. Lin Fan's prayer may have played a role, but only a little. When it was almost dawn, Gro's new wave of attacks finally arrived. What's the situation? Lin Fan was awakened from her dream, and the whole person was still in a state of confusion and high excitement. She quickly put on her combat uniform, and asked loudly on the other end of the phone. Almost all satellites and spacecraft in low Earth orbit have been controlled. There was a rare heaviness in Wu Yusen's voice. Now they are lined up in a row, and flying around Langsing. Lin Fan was putting on her shoes on one foot. She was startled, and her center of gravity shifted, and she fell to the ground. Fortunately, she reacted quickly, rolled on the ground, and put on her shoes. Others may not know, but she has seen it with her own eyes. There are at least thousands of satellites and spacecraft of all sizes outside Langsing. In the early stage of the Stoned plan of Country P alone, thousands of spacecraft have been launched, not to mention the various detection satellites and telescopes before. Their Country H and Country E have also launched thousands of small satellites, as well as some signal satellites, weather satellites, etc. launched for other countries. Anyway, half of the shiny things in the starry sky above Langsing are not necessarily stars, but these small spacecraft. Now John Woo said that all these things are controlled by someone. How can that be? Let's not talk about other things, just talk about signal satellites and camera satellites. Once these 2 technological tools lose control, everyone on Langsing will be no different from the deaf and blind. Gro finally reacted. After the rough physical attack, he began to choose a more relaxed way to attack them. Lin Fan quickly rushed into the toilet, took a glass of water to rinse his mouth, and wiped his face. Put on the eyepiece, switch the mobile phone signal in, and run out. This is the inspiration I got from watching the Starlink in the short video. Chapter 571 Switching the World Tree Network. The signal doesn't seem to be affected. Lin Fan said as he ran. Yes, it's only the trajectory that's out of control, and the function is not affected. Wu Yusen replied, but this is not a solution. Since Gro can control the trajectory, it should not be difficult to control other things. They can't use the eyes and ears controlled by Gro. Even if Gro is not destroyed, they dare not continue to use it. Who knows if Gro can understand their language? Thinking about the AI database that was transmitted before, Gro should have deciphered at least part of it. Otherwise, why would he work so hard to get that thing? Originally, Gro couldn't see or hear the situation on Langsing. But now that the satellite is controlled, everything will inevitably be exposed to Gro. It was originally a tool to help them, but it finally became a weapon for the opponent. This is not good. What's more terrible is that once the satellite is scrapped, their combat power, which was not advantageous to begin with, will be reduced by another level. It's really tricky. What should we do then? Lin Fan thought of this quickly and asked. It is inevitable that the external network will be scrapped. The director has already contacted the ugly woman, hoping to use the World Trees network to continue to support Langsing's network system. It's a pity that the space camera can't be used. Wu Yusen covered the microphone and secretly paid attention to the movements in the information room. The World Trees network has long been spread all over the world. Although some of its energy was lost a few days ago, as a biological master control server, it is not difficult to connect to the global network system. With the World Trees network, communication and video will be more stable than satellite networks. It's just that the camera can only use local video, and there is no way to see the panoramic view from space. In this way, they can't know Gro's dynamics in time. But this is already the best result. She agreed. Lin Fan still remembered that the ugly woman was not an easy person to talk to. Wu Yusen watched Zhu Kunjin finish the conversation with the ugly woman with a smile, and felt relieved. It depends on the situation. He should have agreed. If we die too early, it will not be good for the world tree. The ugly woman is now in the same position as us. That's good. Lin Fan also breathed a sigh of relief. He turned a corner and saw Wu Yusen outside the door. I saw you. Wu Yusen also heard the noise and hung up the phone. He helped Lin Fan open the door of the information room and the two walked in together. I'm here. ZHU Kunjin had just received good news from the ugly woman and was in a good mood. Seeing Lin Fan coming over, he smiled and greeted him. Director, how is the situation now? Lin Fan looked up. On the screen, the camera that was still working was playing the strange phenomenon in the sky. The satellites with lights on were lined up in a row and orbited around Langsing like a starring. The original space picture was completely black. All satellites close to the Earth have disconnected their signal links with Langsing. Whether there are any out of control or not, we dare not gamble. ZHU Kunjin replied, the network we are using now is the World Tree Network. Lin Fan could not feel any difference, but looking at the excited expressions of the network workers in the information room, it seemed to be very good. Doesn't Country P have any doubts? The H side knew about the existence of the World Tree and had no doubts about the network being maintained or even improved. But Country P knew nothing about this. When all satellite signals were cut off, they could still keep the signal smooth. They must be confused, right? In fact, ground signal towers can also establish a relatively stable signal network. Wang Fengfeng turned around and replied, it's just that there will be certain obstacles to the signals between different G countries. Without satellites, the network is not affected. Country P must have a conspiracy theory. At the same time, OV looked ugly. When did Country H reach so far? We didn't even know they had done this. Didn't you say that the stronger the ally, the better? Antonio asked curiously. Before, OV had instilled in him how beneficial it was for the alliance to be strong for Country H, but now he began to worry again. To be honest, if Country H hadn't kept a backup plan, they would have been in real trouble this time when their communications were compromised. That's two different things. OV glanced at Antonio, who didn't know anything. At this time, there was no extra time to teach him slowly. These guys from Country H are always so secretive. No one knows when they will come up with something. OV was dissatisfied, but helpless. If it were in the past, he would definitely make a big deal about it and let the international community criticize Country H for its cross-border behavior. But now, it's unknown how long Langsing can exist. Everyone relies on these two countries to resist aliens. What's the point of talking about these things? I can only record this account first and settle it when I have the chance. I was talking nonsense in my heart, but I still had to smile on my face. When has OV ever been so aggrieved? The situation is stronger than people, and temporary grievances are nothing. OV put aside his emotions and deployed quickly. Now if someone stands on the ground, he will definitely see the wonder of stars orbiting the Earth. That dazzling star chain is beautiful and dangerous, marking a new round of attack by Gro. After all the satellites cut off the signal, they automatically started the shutdown program. They were silent in space and became new space junk. After Gro found that they could not achieve their goal by restarting, they directly abandoned their original plan. Several large aircraft flew out of the hull, approached and hit the satellites with shock waves, causing them to fall into Langsing. When the large and small spacecraft passed through the atmosphere, they rubbed out fire, dragged their long tails, and fell to the ground. The general manager slammed his fist on the table, his eyes wide open, and he was furious. These satellites are all their hard work, just like this. OV also looked at the fallen satellites with heartache, frowning and gritting his teeth. Gro's hand was really cruel. If it can't be used, it will be destroyed. The satellites they sent out after decades of time, except for the few that escaped from long distances, can be said to be wiped out this time. And the destruction of satellites is not the most annoying thing. Satellites are much larger than meteoroids, plus the acceleration given by Gro. These satellites, big and small, fell in at the scale of a meteor shower and the speed of an asteroid impact. No matter where they hit, it would be terrible. Gro's move was equivalent to creating a large number of macroplanet impact events for them. What a loss. What a loss. Antonio, go intercept it. OV shouted. Antonio also knew that the situation was serious and rushed out quickly. On the other side, Lin Fan also transformed into a star and rushed forward with a spear in his hand. She had seen movies about asteroids hitting the Earth. Although these satellites are much smaller, so many of them fell at the same time. The result, estimated by 800 people, was very scary. Lin Fan did not dare to think too much, but knew that he had to try his best to intercept, especially in crowded cities. Fortunately, they were only in one line, so the cities affected were limited. At this time, there was no need to look at the navigation, just chase the bright spots in the sky. Lin Fan didn't know if his attack would be effective against such a falling trend, so he had to bite the bullet and rush forward. The setting of the world tree was set before. This network switch was a sudden idea, because the satellite was not in use. Oh my god, I'm a genius. I accidentally got a sudden inspiration. Hahaha, the speed of the asteroid hitting the Earth should be exaggerated. I don't want to spend a lot of time looking for a data. Everyone, just take a look at the meaning. It's very critical. Chapter 572, Apollo's backup plan. The falling satellites were coming fiercely, falling continuously from the sky. The flames dragged long tails downwards one after another, like giant fireworks exploding. Lin Fan did not dare to appreciate this doomsday beauty. She rushed to the most dangerous direction at the fastest speed. The further she went, the heavier the sense of oppression of the destruction of the world became. Lin Fan had a strange and unreal feeling that she was in a movie, but her reason told her that all this was real. Movies cannot shoot such scenes. To be honest, this scene of thousands of stars in a row falling together was really unprecedentedly shocking. But being in it, the feeling was not wonderful. The satellites fell too fast, like small suns falling one by one. Lin Fan did not dare to rush up directly. In theory, the hardness of the shells of these aircraft could not be compared with the outer armor of the stars. But Gro gave them a powerful shockwave, and this acceleration made them approach Langsing at a speed that they could not bear at all. Gro no longer cared about the use value of these satellites and aircraft, and used them all as waste. So they don't care whether the high speed will destroy the satellite itself. In this attack, they destroyed Langsing's monitoring and network without spending a single soldier, and used Langsing's own things to attack Langsing. Whether it is from a physical or emotional point of view, as long as it causes damage, no matter how big or small, it is good for Gro. They just need to wait quietly, like a spectator, and wait for the result. Back to Lin Fan. She didn't know how much the satellite's acceleration was, but she could feel the danger. The outer armor of the star should be able to withstand such an impact, but she didn't think it could hold up under such an impact. Thinking about the previous sparring with the senior brother, the opponent pulled down with a sword. The outer armor didn't break, but her body was injured. Living things have an instinctive avoidance of danger. Lin Fan looked at the opponent's aggressive appearance, and she felt that, if she faced it head on, she would most likely be knocked away. Even if she could destroy the current target, once she was injured, the targets behind her like a meteor shower, no one could intercept them as quickly as she did. The control room had obviously received the data from the space agency, and issued a warning. Xingqian, don't fight head on, destroy it from a distance. Understood. This command was exactly what Lin Fan wanted. She swung her right hand, grasped the long sword in midair, and pointed it directly at the target. The people behind the screen saw a purple lightning flash across the sky, dividing the screen into two. The target was in the middle, pierced through by the lightning, and after a visible pause, it began to fall freely again. Lin Fan took the opportunity to grab it, and quickly pulled the charred satellite down to a relatively safe height, chose a relatively open place, and threw it out. At this time, there was no time to slowly put the things in a safe area, and it was almost enough to reduce the damage to the minimum. Seeing that Lin Fan's attack was effective, the people on the ground all breathed a sigh of relief. If so many satellites were to be smashed down, the place they landed on would be no different from the surface of the moon. With the experience of success, Lin Fan also had a bottom line in his heart, and rushed up again with full confidence. On the Eurasian continental plate, purple lights that went straight to the sky kept flashing. On the back of Langsing, it was a different scene. Apollo's holy light obviously could not stop the aircraft from falling like the lightning of Xingqian. But he was not afraid at all and rushed forward. What is he going to do? Wu Yusen muttered in a low voice. It's impossible to rush forward. Foreigners, especially foreign men, plus Apollo's special identity, can understand that they have fearless courage. Lin Fan avoided the sharp edge to act cautiously. This Apollo rushed straight up. Why didn't Party P stop him? Ovi is not such a reckless person. The Minister of Security of Country H said in a deep voice. Since he didn't stop him, I think he was sure. This Apollo should have a trick up his sleeve. On the H side, because Apollo's information was not shared, they didn't know his other means of attack, except the known information of the Holy Light Sword. Compared with Xingqian, it seems that there is no other means. Apollo released a shocking big move in the secret speculation of everyone. He flew to the front of the falling aircraft and stabilized it. His 3 pairs of diamond-shaped wings spread out like an umbrella, and then he stopped moving. He is. Before he could finish the 3 words, what is he doing? Apollo's towering shoulder blades turned up, revealing 2 rows of black, neatly arranged holes. Fuck. Countless people stood up and clapped their hands. Amid the excitement, Apollo calmly launched the attack. The black holes on his shoulder armor emitted dazzling light, and he fired more than a dozen light bombs in succession. Each of them could automatically track a falling spacecraft and detonate instantly. After a flash of light, only some debris remained in the air, falling to the ground with a puff. Even if he was ignored, it would not cause any impact. Ovi crossed his legs proudly and took a puff of his cigar. Keep going. Man, show them how powerful you are. In the information room of the Special Affairs Office, everyone was talking about it. Why does he have a cannon? What's going on? What kind of cannon is this? An electromagnetic cannon? A pulse cannon? A light wave cannon, it looks like. Soon, the main control asked, doesn't Xingqian have a cannon? ZHU Kunjan couldn't laugh anymore. We haven't discovered this ability yet. When Xingqian returns this time, we will follow up and investigate. Well, the general manager said with a serious face, confirm this as soon as possible. Yes. ZHU Kunjan quickly contacted Banhei after hanging up the video. After Banhei knew that another bionic armor had the function of firing a cannon, the old man in his 60s rushed to the information room like a young man. At the same time, Cui Yan was also confirming the situation with 623. I thought Xingqian was already powerful enough now. Invincible defense, indestructible weapons, and almost all lightning enchantments. If she also has a high energy cannon like Apollo, then Cui Yan's heart was burning. It should be said that people who have expectations for Xingqian are all burning in their hearts. There is still a big difference between having a cannon and not having a cannon. Let's just talk about the ability to defeat the enemy at the moment. Xingqian is getting more and more adept at using lightning and is becoming more and more skilled in his strikes and throws. But compared to Apollo, who just stands there and fires a round of volleys so casually, Xingqian's attack method is really inferior. Going further, Xingqian and Apollo represent the 2 major G families. Previously, Xingqian easily overwhelmed Apollo with its lightning advantage, but now, if Apollo can fire cannons and Xingqian does not have this function, Country P is bound to be ahead of them again. Country H is not afraid of Country P's lead, but Country P's character, can it not say anything good? Once Apollo's cannon becomes the only one in Lansing that is ahead of Xingqian, even if they win the defense battle of Lansing, the follow-up will inevitably be bad. Can Xingqian's lightning withstand Apollo's cannon? Not sure. But the general knew clearly that, based on the performance of Apollo's attack just now, before Xingqian came to protect them, they would disappear in the light. Apollo is also very powerful, because the thunder of Xingqian was an accident. Hehe. Chapter 573 Incomplete Evolution. Gro sent out 5 spaceships, which flew slowly to the side of the Lansing spacecraft floating in orbit, and fired down one by one. For a large satellite like the International Space Station, 2 or 3 shots were needed to achieve the expected acceleration. For small satellites, 2 or 3 could be pushed out with 1 shot. For medium-sized satellites, it depends on the density. There were also cases where 2 or 3 were pushed out with 1 shot for those that were closer and denser, but most of the time, they were still shot down one by one. Because of this, and because there was a time difference for all the spaceships to be in place, not all the spacecraft fell at the same time. This was very friendly to the stars, which were busy like a spinning top, and had already left after images. Lin Fan tried her best to save the spacecraft that would fall into the city and cause huge damage, and directly gave up those that were heading directly to the sea. desert and other wasteland areas. Even so, those that were destroyed and thrown out by her still caused damage to the ground buildings. It was just much better than smashing them directly from space. In comparison, Apollo, who can be regarded as strolling in the garden, easily positioning, and transcendent from a distance, is not too relaxed on the opposite side of Langsing. Although Xingqian also used lightning to destroy remotely, lightning can only stop the spacecraft from falling, but cannot completely destroy it. Everyone knows the horror of high altitude objects. An egg or even a small stone falling from a high altitude can cause huge damage to the people below. Not to mention the spacecraft falling from thousands of miles high. Lin Fan had to repeat the action of sending them to a safer height above the ground, and throwing them out, and then flying back, to charge the next one. Back and forth, the speed was pulled to the extreme, but there was still no time to rest. If the two were described as game characters, Xingqian was more like a close combat berserker at the moment, and Apollo was a high-level mage who was stable in the back. What is the nature of his cannon? The head of the armament muttered. It seems that there is no substantial projectile. Apollo's cannon is fired with a beam of light, and it can be refilled repeatedly. It seems to be inexhaustible, environmentally friendly and efficient. The head of the armaments was very excited. Can they also develop such firepower? It's like light matter, or pure energy body. Cui Yan summarized the latest conjectures of 800 big men and said, but since it is an energy body, it can't be inexhaustible. The law of conservation of energy is a dead string in the hearts of those who do scientific research. If it is an energy body, it should be gathered from the energy inside the mecha itself. Zhu Kunjin also agreed. I just don't know how many times Apollo's energy can support him to shoot in succession. Such a powerful attack must be more damaging than a lightsaber. The general nodded. This powerful attack will affect the state of his mecha, right? Xingqian was going back and forth like a little bee, and everyone was worried that she was too busy. Apollo was leisurely, and everyone was worried that he didn't have enough energy. What did Ovi say? The general asked the security minister. After the alliance was formed, the security minister had been communicating with Ovi. What can he say? The security minister smiled bitterly. I feel itchy when I see that smugness. Since they are fake brothers, the information of both parties is not fully disclosed. As for the armaments, everyone knows the numbers. If you don't say it, I probably know about it. As for the two mechas, because both sides have concerns, it's completely a case of you guess. I won't say anything. Just like Ovi had to guess Lin Fan's lightning properties before, now it's Country H's turn. But this is different from Apollo's previous lightsaber. The lightsaber can find shadows on Xingqian, and Country H can guess it by looking at it. But now this kind of energy cannon is completely beyond their cognition, and Xingqian doesn't have it, so they are completely blind. Are they sure Xingqian doesn't have it? Zhu Kunjin was unhappy. Probably. The Minister of Security replied to him. They shared Apollo's footage with us, and we shared Xingqian's footage with them. Comparing the two, everyone knows that it's faster to use a cannon. If Xingqian had an energy cannon, would she deal with it like this? Everyone looked at the two mechas with sharp contrast on the big screen and were silent. Thanks to the energy cannon, Apollo easily destroyed the corpse and the traces, and his efficiency was far superior to Xingqian. The only thing that worries people is his energy endurance. Xingqian is always busy, and his efficiency and results in handling spacecraft are not as good as Apollo. It is hard to say how much energy is consumed, but it looks very tired. From an objective standpoint, if Xingqian also has the same means of attack, why doesn't she use it? She is not a fool. So Ovi is sure that Xingqian does not have an energy cannon. Ha. Although it is a pity, this is good news worth celebrating. In Country H, the possibility of Xingqian having a cannon has been discussed. Her shoulder armor is similar to Apollo's, and it is very tall. According to the volume, it is entirely possible that there is a cannon. The data in Cui Yan's hand is very clear. At the beginning, 623 made the data clear to 5 decimal places in order to make bionic armor. When imitating, they also expressed doubts about the towering shoulder armor. The raised chest armor can be said to protect the chest cavity, thicken the defense layer, and prevent fatal impact. But what is the purpose of such a high shoulder blade? A group of people studied for a long time and did not come up with any results. Finally, in order to reduce the weight of the bionic armor, the shoulder armor was simplified and made thinner, and a solar energy panel was hidden inside. Now seeing Apollo's shoulder armor open and a row of gun muzzles inside, all the questions are suddenly clear. Xingqian must also have a gun. 800 people firmly believe it. But why haven't they discovered this function for so long? It is said that Xingqian and Lin Fan have merged very well. According to her, apart from the difference in form, she feels no different inside. Now, whether it is Xingqian's body control, weapon use, or the later lightning ability, she is familiar with it. It is said that with Lin Fan's control over Xingqian's body, he should not be unaware of such an important energy cannon on his body. Does it require special triggering conditions? She hasn't evolved fully. Ke Wenbin, who is in charge of materials in the 623 group, beat his chest and stamped his feet. Zhang Zhaoji covered his head and shrank into the chair. She didn't absorb 818 completely. There is still a little bit in the first generation armor. When Lin Fan first encountered 818 transformation, he unconsciously used Xingqian's hand to snap off a few small pieces, which were taken by Ke Wenbin for research and later covered on the shells of 4 first generation armors to increase hardness. Until later, the other 818s were completely absorbed by Lin Fan, and Xingqian evolved into what it is now. It's not that they didn't think about taking out the remaining 818s on the first generation armor, but there is really no alternative material with similar hardness, and Xingqian's strength is already unmatched, so they gave up for the time being. Thinking about it now, I regret it. If Xingqian had absorbed all the 818s earlier, would she have discovered such a powerful artillery function earlier? Song Ren and others have been on standby in the underground lounge of Sijiu City. After seeing the picture, they quickly guess the reason. What should we do now? Should we recall the first generation armor and peel off the coating for Xingqian to evolve? This line has been buried for a long time ago. Someone brought up the issue of satellites disappearing when they burn up to the ground. Well, I've actually thought about it. My knowledge is no longer enough to cover all of this. But I think the return capsules will all be intact, right? Let's just treat it as a hard setting. Either the size is large, like the large one in the International Space Station, or the material is hard enough, and the return capsule material used inside is a reinforced kind. Haha, just treat it as a hard setting. In fact, I thought about the plot of an asteroid hitting the Earth at the time, and I felt that the destruction was too great, so I changed it to a satellite. Well, this unreasonable part, let's just treat it as a hard setting for now, and I'll come back and change it when there's a more reasonable explanation. Muamama, I love you guys. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574, Helping Each Other. Impossible. Cui Yan rejected it outright. It takes a lot of time to peel off the 818 material from the bionic armor shell, not to mention 4 of them. According to past records, it will take at least a week. After a week, the female Ugly's barrier should have been stretched. And we are not sure whether Xingqian can evolve into an energy cannon after all the 818 is absorbed. All this is based on speculation. This does not take into account whether there will be unexpected situations after Xingqian is upgraded again, resulting in unknown buffer time for unconsciousness. In this case, it is not appropriate to make a rash attempt and make the 4 bionic armors completely unable to fight. Cui Yan showed Lin Fan's coma after several upgrades. Although the amount absorbed this time was not large, they did not know how the evolution system worked inside the body. Who could guarantee that Lin Fan would be alive and kicking after absorbing it? By then, the bionic armor would be broken into pieces and could not be reassembled, and Xingqian would fall to one side. This was not the result they wanted. Let's talk about the bionic armor. Although their combat power is not as good as Xingqian and Apollo, it is much higher than ordinary military forces. Even though their endurance energy is a very large limitation, seeing that Gro's attack is escalating, as long as it is not for the purpose of destroying the planet, it will always have to land and make contact. At this time, the bionic armor can help a lot. Lang Xing's combat power that can resist grow is not much, and it really cannot withstand human losses. I don't recommend making changes now. ZHU Kunjan said, although Lin Fan is a little busy at present, he is obviously still at ease. It's just that Apollo's energy cannon suddenly appeared, which dazzled us and confused our minds. The mode of comparison made each side lose their composure, ignoring that Xingqian's handling of the dangerous situation was timely and effective. Looking at Xingqian's data again, it has been very stable, and there is no obvious rapid breathing. Her condition is even much better than when she was in the subway in the city of Suzhou earlier. This proves that the current action is still relatively easy for her, but they who are sitting in the back are confused. Because they were shocked by Apollo's performance, they wanted to destroy Xingqian's current stable state. Everyone quickly got rid of their wrong thoughts. Let's not talk about this for now, the general manager concluded directly, but Cui Yan, you can calculate it again. Now that all the capabilities of 800 or so are used, does it really take 7 days to peel off the coating? Yes. Cui Yan knew that the general manager was prepared for any eventuality and agreed without any doubt. Don't let her know about Xingqian first. The general manager said to ZHU Kunjan again, let her focus on the things in front of her first and don't be distracted by other things. The appearance of the energy cannon can make those people who are calm in the face of danger mess up their minds. It is better not to interfere with Xingqian, whose psychological quality is not very good to begin with. Her set of continuous actions, stopping for a moment will delay things. ZHU Kunjan said that he understood. The general manager asked again, how is the preparation of anti-aircraft weapons? You can't always let two people rush to the front. Although they are powerful, Lang Xing is everyone's Lang Xing. As soon as Xing fell, the general manager issued an order for anti-aircraft firepower preparation and notified all countries to prepare simultaneously. Xingqian and Apollo were just buying time for them, and they were at the forefront when they were not ready. All our anti-aircraft missiles are in place, but not all G countries have anti-aircraft weapons on the falling trajectory. The actual effective strike area in the eastern hemisphere of Eurasia is only about half. The Minister of Security replied. Most of the high firepower equipment of developed G countries is relatively concentrated. However, some G countries with a small population, poor economy, and even some disasters have just reached the level of food and clothing, and some are even hungry. Where can they get anti-aircraft weapons? Fortunately, this long star chain trajectory circles Lang Xing and is relatively fixed. Many G countries with sufficient firepower are not within the disaster area, so it should be no problem to let them support the defense of countries without weapons. However, there are only a few G countries that are capable of launching long-range missiles, and there are still areas beyond the range. Xingqian still has to fill the gap, but it is good to have this. Have you contacted them all? The chief asked again. We have contacted the relevant G countries according to the coverage area and asked them to take action, but several G countries said that they want to keep their firepower for their own defense and are unwilling to take action. The Minister of Security answered with embarrassment. You bastard. The chief's eyes widened and he cursed. Why are you still doing these little tricks at this time? Tell them, if we don't help him this time, don't expect us to help them next time they get into trouble. It's already this time. Are we saving that little firepower for them to set off fireworks underground? The chief slammed the table hard, and the teacups on the table rang together, and everyone sitting around was silent. Synchronize the area that cannot be covered to Xingqian and let her go over to support. The chief ordered. Let the ground prepare to take over her current target. Show your best skills and let that girl see that you don't let her be busy all the time. Yes. The security minister responded loudly and quickly deployed. Chief, several Gs asked about the time for the air-to-air launch. Someone asked from the other side. The commander yelled, when you are ready, just fight. Do you still need me to teach you? Don't you have eyes? You don't know how to fight. When you land at your doorstep, you still expect me to teach you step by step. They have spoiled you, right? The person who asked the question quietly retreated, and the commander was not satisfied and spat fiercely. You really think you are your son, just because you call me dad? A bunch of self-righteous idiots. After receiving the transfer order, Lin Fan hesitated for a second, but still gave up the current target and flew to the new positioning point. In the dim sky, flames rose from the ground, dragging long tails directly to the target. Lin Fan heard the sound of sonic boom. Looking back, she saw that the target satellite she had just given up was hit by a missile, and flames exploded, and fragments flew everywhere. It is worthy of being a Hurricane Express, and it must be delivered. Then, one after another, flames lit up, all of which were falling objects hit in midair. Lin Fan felt relieved and rushed to the positioning point with all his heart. Behind her, large and small, high and low fires exploded one after another, and each time it reached her ears, it was like a pleasant sound. It felt so good to have someone to help. She had been tense before, feeling that the safety of the entire Lansing, no, half of Lansing was on her, and she dared not slack off at all. Although the interception was not strenuous for her, the strong mental pressure made her breathless. She was afraid that, if she was not careful, a mistake would cause major losses, making her feel uneasy in the future. This is a planet. But she also knew clearly that facing Grow, Lansing's local means really had no way to deal with Grow. Xingchen has the ability, and she has the responsibility. If she doesn't go, what will others do? Lin Fan didn't know when she had such a strong sense of responsibility. But she felt the pull between her sense of responsibility and her ability to withstand pressure. Her psychological quality was far from being able to bear such a huge responsibility without being disturbed, but she had to stand up. Fortunately, the ground had responded in time. These artillery fires were like signals to help her relieve stress. One by one, they were all relieving her stress. The constantly flashing lights and loud noises seemed to tell her, "You are not alone. We are always with you. I have studied this cannon. Radiation cannons, photon cannons, electromagnetic cannons. I have checked a lot of information. If it succeeds, I will be confused. Well, let's not worry about the principle. It's amazing. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, it's all alien technology. It's normal for us not to understand it." Chapter 575, 24-hour standby. The battle lasted from dusk to dawn in the Eastern Hemisphere, and from dawn to dusk in the Western Hemisphere. The dome of Lansing seemed to be broken, and things kept falling down. Lin Fan was in it, and somehow, he suddenly thought of the myth of Nu mending the sky. I don't know what kind of situation that big guy faced at that time. It shouldn't be worse than now, right? Her hands kept on, and she skillfully dealt with the fallen spacecraft, and suddenly she had a greater desire for energy in her heart. If Nuwa was here, she wouldn't have to intervene like her when she encountered such a situation, right? She should have a faster and more effective way. Maybe Nuwa can be used instead of Nuwa. It's just that the current Nuwa is guarding the world tree and can't come out. If Nuwa is so powerful, then the Nuwa she worships should be even more powerful. Maybe she can solve these troubles with a wave of her hand. In this way, does Mr. Kyan also have such ability? But Mr. Kyan is in seclusion, and I don't know when he will come out. Lin Fan has become so skilled in repeating mechanical actions that he can be distracted. While working, he thinks of all kinds of things in his mind. It was the ground firepower that relieved her pressure, otherwise she would still be so tense. It took decades to launch thousands of satellites, but only a few hours to fall. It was like a global meteor shower. The scene was extremely spectacular, and the cost was extremely painful. Looking at the debris on the ground, they destroyed it with their own hands. Almost all the leaders who had launched satellites felt heartbroken, but they could do nothing about it. Grow. The intention was extremely sinister. This also further proved that their opponents were alien creatures with high intelligence. The inconspicuous bugs in the past suddenly became a huge threat. Who would have thought? Humans who claim to be at the top of the food chain would be suppressed by bugs. This is the gap in technological development. The Lansing people deeply felt their backwardness. A while ago, they were still rejoicing over the success of the space shuttle, and were still complacent about the establishment of the space station. Now they can only be pressed to the ground by high-tech creatures. The achievements they were proud of, the advanced technology they had developed with great difficulty, were nothing in front of the other party. Because the satellite was damaged, they could not detect Grow's movements in the sky. The number of falling spacecraft became fewer and fewer, and began to fall sparsely. Lin Fan finished her work in the designated area, brushed past many missiles, and returned to the Special Affairs Office to rest. This mission was tight at the beginning and loose at the end, and the consumption was not bad, but the electricity consumption was relatively high. Lin Fan once suspected that, if she continued to chop like this, the electricity stored in her body would soon be used up. But there was no other choice at the time. Fortunately, until just now, the electricity she released did not show a trend of running out of energy. Thinking about the previous measurement of electricity, they said how much power it was. Forget it, I can't remember, just charge it after it's used up. It can be charged. She is now resistant to electricity. The elevator door of the cafeteria opened, and Lin Fan walked out quickly. As usual, Wu Yusen had already filled a table with food, and was waiting for her. Without saying a word, Lin Fan picked up a glass of drink, and drank it in one breath. Are you okay? Wu Yusen took the empty cup, and moved another cup to her hand. Can you hold on physically? In the past, after Lin Fan finished his work, he would go back to his room, to take a hot shower, change into clean clothes, and go out to look for food. This time, it won't work. Because without the eyes, they don't know when Grow's next wave of actions will come. Although the previous attack has not been completely over, no one can guarantee that Grow won't launch an attack at such a time, when people are easily relaxed, right? After all, they have been so damaged, it's not surprising to lose a little more. So the top combat powers Incheon and Apollo became the first emergency combat force, and were required to be on standby 24 hours a day. They don't know Apollo's ability reserves, but Xingqian must replenish his physical strength through food, so eating became the first priority. It's okay. Lin Fan lowered his head and sniffed his collar. The sweat smell is not strong. Wu Yusen smiled. In the past few days, Lin Fan has linked the amount of sweating with physical energy consumption. The more sweating, the more physical energy consumption, and vice versa. I have to say, this method is quite intuitive. Luckily you don't sweat much, otherwise it would be hard for you to sit here and eat with all the sweat and stink. Wu Yusen saw her eating very fast and helped pass the food to her. Everyone knows that Lin Fan has misophobia. I don't know how serious it is, but at least she can't stand the obvious smell of sweat on her body. What can I do? Lin Fan muttered while eating. I'll go faster and try to take a shower later. It's not all misophobia. Taking a hot shower will make me feel better. Yeah, hot water can relieve fatigue. It will make me feel better. Wu Yusen handed her water again. Don't choke. Eat slowly. It should be in time. Lin Fan ate hurry up and stopped only when she felt a little full. Is that enough? So much more than before. It should be enough. She stood up with her flat stomach. I won't clean up. I need to go wash first. You help me clean up. After saying that, she ran away without waiting for Wu Yusen to respond. Don't run after eating. It's bad for your stomach. After Wu Yusen shouted, Lin Fan disappeared. He had to speed up, packed up his things, and chased to the office. When he pushed the door open, Lin Fan came out wiping her hair. A hot bath every day, happy as a fairy. She was wearing a bathrobe, and she didn't avoid Wu Yusen, standing in front of the landscape window, to look at the electronic green plants. Your requirements are really low. Wu Yusen smiled, and sat on the sofa, not looking at her. I told you not to rush, you see, don't you have plenty of time? I dare not speak. Lin Fan used a towel, to wipe her hair hard, threw it aside, when it was almost wiped. Picked up a comb to comb her hair. I found that I have a little crow brain talent. I dare not speak. Wu Yusen couldn't do anything with her. Has your self-proclaimed talent been certified? Crow brain talent? The Special Affairs Office has certification in this regard. Official certification. Very accurate. Don't I have time? Lin Fan used a comb to comb her hair, and after combing it all, she didn't care, letting it dry by itself. Then when you're done, I'll take you to the test. Wu Yusen teased her with a smile. Okay. Lin Fan agreed immediately and went into the room and closed the door. When he came out again, he had changed into a brand new combat uniform. I have to go for the test so that I don't have to worry about what I think and say in the future. After Lin Fan's crow brain came true several times before, he was a little afraid to think. It's not a good thing to always do this. Wu Yusen took the dirty clothes from her hand. I'll help you wash them. You take a rest first. I'll call you if there's anything. Lin Fan didn't bother to be polite with him. Okay, I'll hurry up. After saying that, she lay down on the sofa, closed her eyes and didn't move. Wu Yusen frowned slightly when she slept, and sighed secretly. He went into the room, and took a thin blanket to cover her, but the person who should have been alert didn't react at all. He left quietly, and after Wu Yusen delivered the clothes, he went to the information room, to watch for Lin Fan. This is a non-stop work. Lin Fan was actually very tired. Her body was fine, but her spirit was the main concern. How could an average person handle such a big thing? Jin Sichin had not come back, so she could only relieve the pressure on herself. Fortunately, she had been through a lot, and had some experience. She did a good job. In addition, with the help of Master Khan's magic weapon, she suppressed her emotions, so the result was not perfect, but it did not cause much impact. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.